Chapter 637. The four from the Lu family. Aunt Ku felt that although Gu Yundong was smart, there was still something to learn in this aspect. Shui Tao is indeed not bad, but she's jumpy and thinks about going out all day long. She's not meticulous enough. She's suitable to follow you, and you like to run around. However, it's not suitable for her to take care of your mother. With your mother's personality, she should find someone more meticulous. Gu Yundong thought about it and felt that it made sense. Not only did the servant have to be more meticulous, but they also had to be smart. She remembered what happened to Jiang Yongkong last time. It was hard to guarantee that no one would have designs on her mother now. Also, when her father checked the house yesterday, a woman had already winked at her father. Speaking of which, she was so young and beautiful, but no one had seduced her. Her parents' market price was actually better than hers. Gu Yundong had deep doubts about her charm. However, when she saw Xiao Qingyan beside her, this suspicion was dispelled by her. Still, Anka was right. They indeed had to buy a batch of servants. There was no need for a lot. 3 to 4 people in a family was enough. Thus, after lunch, Gu Yundong brought Madame Yang and Kiki to the agency with Aunt Ku. She felt that since they were bought to take care of Madame Yang and Kiki, they had to be pleasing to the eye. This time, Gu Yundong's requirements were slightly higher. She wanted to find someone who could read. It would be best if it was a family. Other than taking care of Madame Yang, she also needed someone to work at home and look after the family. Once the requirements were high, it would not be easy to find them. After going to 2 agencies, she finally found what she wanted. The family's surname was Lu. The couple had 2 daughters. One of them was about the same age as Gu Yundong and looked clean and pretty. When she smiled, she revealed a small dimple and looked especially likable. At that time, when she smiled, Madame Yang also smiled. Moreover, she could read. It was said that she used to be a second-class maidservant in a rich family. Because she had served Miss since she was young, she learned something from her. However, when she grew up and became beautiful, that young master took a fancy to her and wanted to take her as a concubine. She was not happy. Because of this matter was stirred up for a few days. In the end, Madame found out and beat them up before selling their entire family. This girl's name was Lu Hongxiu. She spoke softly, gently, and carefully. Moreover, she knew who was in charge. She did not even look at Xiao Qingyuan, which satisfied Gu Yundong. Gu Yundong almost rolled her eyes when she saw other girls looking at Xiao Qingyuan while she interviewed them. The Lu couple was also honest. Lu Sheng was about the same age as Gu Dajiang. He used to run errands for the master. His wife, Madame Niu, worked in the kitchen. Because she wasn't competitive, she was just a kitchen helper, but according to her, her culinary skills were actually not bad. Both of them were very diligent. They also had a younger daughter called Lu Hongqiao. She was about 7 or 8 years old. It was just nice that she could be a companion with Yunka. The little girl already had friends in Yongfu village. She was still very unfamiliar here. Yun Shu was not around either. Only when she had a child of about the same age to play with could her be cheered up. When the 4 members of the Lu family were brought back, they were still a little nervous. They only looked at each other when they stood in front of the small house. They took a deep breath and followed Gu Yundong in. Unexpectedly, just as they entered, a voice suddenly sounded in their ears. "Is Lady Gu back? Is Lady Gu back?" It was not just the 4 members of the Lu family. Even Gu Yundong and the others were so frightened by this unfamiliar voice that they almost turned around and left. Chapter 638. I've turned bald while waiting for you. The owner of the voice quickly rushed in front of them. After looking around, he locked his gaze on Gu Yundong. "You must be Miss Gu?" Xiao Qingyuan took a step forward and stood in front of him. He frowned and looked at him warily. Gu Yundong looked at Gu Dajiang, who came out later. "Father, what's going on?" Gu Dajiang looked helpless. He rubbed his forehead and said, "This is Master Xia from Tianhai Academy. Especially came to discuss painting skills with you." He also had a headache. When he had just arrived at the academy, he did not even have time to look for the supervisor before he was stopped by Master Xia, who directly asked him where the painter that had guided the students yesterday was. Gu Dajiang looked at his anxious expression and thought that he was here to find trouble. He immediately ran away warily. It was not easy for Gu Dajiang to shake him off and find the supervisor to settle all the matters regarding admission. When he was about to leave, he did not expect to see Master Xia again at the entrance of the academy. At that time, he had a pile of paintings in his hands and looked like he was determined to follow Gu Dajiang. He even climbed into Gu Dajiang's carriage before Gu Dajiang did. It was as if he would cling to Gu Dajiang if Gu Dajiang didn't bring him to look for the artist. What could Gu Dajiang do? He already knew from the gatekeeper that this was a teacher from the academy, and he was a teacher who was very passionate about painting. Therefore, Gu Dajiang could only bring him back. Coincidentally, Gu Yundong had just left the house before they returned. Master Xia had been waiting at home for more than 2 hours. His head was bald from waiting. From time to time, he would run out of the courtyard to take a look. He almost broke the threshold. Hence, when Gu Yundong and the rest returned, he was the first to rush up. "Miss Gu, I've finally met you. You don't know, but I wasn't at the academy yesterday. I didn't even know that there was an artist reviewing the students' paintings. When I returned and heard the news, I quickly ran to the fate hut of the mountain elder. However, you guys had already left. I was just one step late. I was just one step late from seeing you. I was so frustrated that I didn't sleep well the entire night. I waited for your father at the academy early in the morning. This time, I finally meet you." Master Xia was extremely excited. Gu Yundong looked at him and felt as if he would cry if he continued. "It's good that you're back. Let me tell you, I brought my paintings over. Come and show me what's wrong. Why can't I draw a satisfactory painting?" As he spoke, he became anxious again and almost reached out to grab Gu Yundong. Gu Yundong quickly told him to calm down. "Master Xia, wait for a while. I've just returned home. I can only calm down and look at the paintings after I've arranged everything, right?" Master Xia wanted to ask her to leave everything to Gu Dajiang, but he was in someone else's house after all. It was not good to go overboard. Therefore, he could only suppress her desire and look at Gu Yundong eagerly, hoping that she could finish everything in an instant. Gu Yundong was speechless. She heaved a sigh of relief and explained the background of the 4 people from the Lu family to Father Gu. Then, she asked Tong Xuetao and Shui Rong to bring them away and settle them down. After everyone was busy with their own things, she followed the impatient Master Xia to the study. The study had just been tidied up not long ago. There was a huge desk in front of the windowsill, and the pen rack on the table was already prepared. Moreover, the brush, ink, paper, and inkstone were all done. She didn't know if Shu and the others had arranged them beforehand or after Master Xia arrived. What shocked Gu Yundong was the pile of things on the table. Chapter 639, Same Lecture Hall. Come. Sit here. Master Xia held the stool enthusiastically. He was not embarrassed by the overly enthusiasm at all. At one point, Gu Yundong even felt that this was Master Xia's home. The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. She pointed at the paintings piled on the table, and her hands trembled uncontrollably. "Don't tell me you drew all these. Do you want me to finish reading them today?" Master Xia was stunned, as if he had just realized that this was a difficult situation. He immediately laughed dryly and reached out to remove half of the paintings. Gu Yundong was speechless. Seeing that she didn't say anything, Master Xia thought for a moment and took off half of the paintings. Gu Yundong still did not speak. Master Xia gritted his teeth and removed 3 scrolls. But Gu Yundong remained calm. Master Xia could not hold it in anymore. "No more. There are no more than 20 paintings here." Gu Yundong rubbed her forehead and said, "Master Xia, actually, I think 1 painting should be enough. You've practiced so many paintings. You must have figured out many drawing methods by yourself and gained a lot of comprehension in your mind. Then I don't think there are many problems. Let's discuss and study 1 painting. You can find out what's wrong with the subsequent paintings, right?" Master Xia felt that what she said made a lot of sense. Hence, he nodded and began to search the pile of paintings for a long time. Gu Yundong looked up and met Gu Dajiang's eyes. After a long time, seeing that Master Xia had yet to come out, Gu Yundong simply went to chat with Gu Dajiang. "Did Father's trip to the academy go smoothly today?" "Don't worry, it's quite good. I've already paid my tuition fees. The academy has already given me student robes and told me some of the academy's rules and school time. Someone even brought father to the academy's canteen. They originally wanted to arrange a dormitory, but we have a place to stay, so I didn't go. Gu Dajiang felt a little emotional. To be honest, this was his first time attending school. Although he had read books when he was young, he had only studied at the old elementary scholar's house. There were no classmates. Now that he had classmates, this feeling was actually very novel. By the way, I'm in the same lecture hall as Qi Ting now. However, Qi Ting didn't seem to be in the academy today. Instead, Zhou and the others he saw yesterday were there. When they saw him, they greeted him happily. Gu Dajiang had only gone to familiarize himself with the school. Classes would only officially start tomorrow. Gu Yundong was very surprised and more or less relieved. Although Qi Ting was at Sundra, he was not a bad person. The few people who were good friends with him were also quite cute. He had known them yesterday, so he was not worried that he would not be able to fit in. As the father and daughter were talking, Master Xia finally found the painting. When he took it out, Gu Yundong wanted to faint. As expected, he did not suffer any losses. He actually found a painting that was as complicated as the river diagram on the Qingming festival. Master Xia looked at her happily. Come, take a look first. Gu Yundong did not want to look at it at all. Her eyes were filled with deep disdain. If she had known earlier, she would not have asked him to search just now. It would have been better if she had just taken a random painting. No, the key was that while Master Xia could not feel anything, why did he have to challenge such a complicated painting? However, since she had agreed, she calmed down and looked at the painting carefully. Fortunately, although the painting was complicated, the technique was traceable. Gu Yundong quickly discovered Master Xia's problem. Chapter 640. My condolences. Gu Yundong was also a painter. She was very patient with Mr. Xia, who was like-minded. Seeing that the two of them had already started discussing, Gu Dajiang picked up a book and sat quietly at the side to read. It was only when Xiao Qingyuan came in that he went out to talk to his wife and daughter. After some time, Gu Yundong raised her head and rubbed her sore neck. A cup of tea suddenly appeared in her hand. She looked up and met Xiao Qingyuan's dissatisfied expression. She immediately smiled. Xiao Qingyuan was dissatisfied with Master Xia, so he didn't even serve him tea. However, Master Xia didn't care at all. He didn't even realize that Gu Dajiang had long changed to Xiao Qingyuan in the room. He only nodded repeatedly with his painting. Excellent, excellent. With Miss Gus' guidance, it's as if I've been enlightened. I've learned a lot. Master Xia laughed and put down the painting in his hand. He went to take another one. This time, Gu Yundong did not need to say anything. He could find the problem himself. He immediately beamed with joy and danced with joy. After a long while, he calmed down and asked Gu Yundong, Yundong, your painting skills are so good. Your teacher must be a big shot in the current era. I wonder where he is now. Can you introduce him? Gu Yundong said, I might never see him again in this lifetime. Her teacher was in another world. However, Master Xia misunderstood and thought that her teacher was no longer in this world. He immediately sighed. The heavens are jealous of geniuses. My condolences. Gu Yundong was speechless. Master Xia did not continue the topic. He flipped through his paintings again. After looking at them for a while, he took out a blank piece of paper and began to draw with a charcoal pen. This time, it was as if God was helping him. It was exceptionally smooth and felt. The smile on Master Xia's face never faded. Gu Yundong shook her head. Although she liked to draw, it was nothing compared to Master Xia's hunger. She didn't disturb him and walked out of the study with Xiao Qingyuan. It was only in the evening that Gu Yundong re-entered the study and called Master Xia, who had forgotten to eat and sleep, out for dinner. Today was considered a housewarming. Gu Yundong personally cooked many good dishes. In the beginning, Master Xia was unwilling to go out. Now that his inspiration had exploded, he had endless energy. It would not be a problem for him to stay in the study until the end of time. However, after Gu Yundong twirled the fried chicken drumstick around his nose, he decisively put down the charcoal pen and quickly ran to the reception hall. There were a lot of people, so they had to be divided into 2 tables to sit down. In fact, Gu Yundong had wanted to invite Niet Song over for such an important day. After all, they had moved to the prefectural city. She had to let her friend know her address and get to know her family. Unfortunately, Niet Song was not around. Aunt Ku said that he had been sent elsewhere by his father to train. Therefore, Master Xia was the only guest in the Gu family. Either table was filled with more than 10 dishes. Firstly, it was to celebrate the housewarming, and secondly, it was to celebrate Gu Dajiang's entrance into school. Wouldn't everyone be happy? After everyone was full, Gu Dajiang personally sent Master Xia out. Then he got Shui Rong to drive the carriage back to the academy. On this trip, Master Xia had made a breakthrough in his painting skills. He had also eaten until his mouth was full of oil. He was already satisfied. Yes, he could still find an excuse to eat next time. That Gu girl's culinary skills were too good. Not only was she good at cooking, but she was also good-looking. It was a pity that she was already engaged. Otherwise, he would have a lot of young talents to introduce to her. The lively courtyard finally quietened down. After everyone had cleaned up, Gu Yundong got up and walked towards the Lu family's house. Chapter 641. Gu Yundong's arrangement. Lu Hongxiu was a meticulous person, so when Tong Shuitao led them to tidy up the rooms, she learned some things about the Gu family from her. After knowing that the Gu family was simple, the old master and young mistress were very kind to the servants, and there were no lecherous young masters, the 4 members of the Lu family heaved a sigh of relief. The uneasiness of coming to this unfamiliar new master's house gradually eased. Hence, when Gu Yundong came to look for them, the Lu family was not too panicked except for a trace of fear. Gu Yundong's gaze swept across the 4 of them and finally stopped on Lu Hongxiu. Half a day has passed. I think you should know the situation at home from Shuitao. Lu Hongxiu was shocked and quickly knelt down. Miss, please forgive me. I was wrong. I shouldn't have asked. Get up. Gu Yundong interrupted her. Lu Hongxiu was stunned. She looked up slightly and carefully glanced at Gu Yundong. Seeing that she did not seem to blame her, she slowly stood up. However, she was still nervous. She did not expect Miss to see through her thoughts at a glance. Lu Hongxiu panicked. She had just arrived and had already left such a bad impression on her mistress. But Gu Yundong said, "It's normal for you to inquire about the master's situation in advance. As long as it's not about the master's privacy, I won't stop you from doing this. It means that you're thorough and cautious." The 4 members of the Lu family were slightly relieved. Gu Yundong said, "Since you already know what our family does, I won't say anything else. From now on, as long as you're loyal to the Gu family, I won't treat you badly. As for what you have to do, I've said it before. It's mainly to take care of my mother and my sister. Hongxiu is meticulous. From now on, she will follow my mother. You know that my mother is like a child now, so you don't have to restrain her. She can do whatever she wants. If she wants to work or go out, she can do whatever she wants. You will help her, but don't let her cross the line. Also, don't let anyone bully her. If you encounter anyone with ill intentions who wants to deceive my mother, feel free to tell me or my father. Hongxiao will stay with Kiki. She likes to eat. Watch her. Don't let her eat too much. Uncle Lu will be in charge of the family matters, especially my father's schoolmates. You have to treat them well. Auntie Nyo used to help in the kitchen. You'll have to take care of the stove in the future." The 4 members of the Lu family hurriedly agreed. Gu Yundong had already explained the main point clearly. They knew what else to do. After giving her instructions, Gu Yundong stood up. "It's getting late. You guys should rest early. Take care, Mississippi." After Gu Yundong left, the 4 members of the Lu family looked at each other. After a long time, Lu Xing said, "Go to sleep. We'll be busy tomorrow morning." The 3 of them did not say anything and nodded. They went to bed. Gu Yundong left the house and went straight to Gu Dajiang and Madame Yang's room. She told them the location of the shop she had seen today and the staff she had recruited. At the same time, she instructed Shu to set off for Yongfu village tomorrow morning and ask Uncle Feng if he was coming to the prefectural city. Shu agreed happily. The next morning he rode his horse and left the prefectural city at full speed. At the same time, Gu Dajiang successfully became a student of Tianhai Academy. Madame Yang was staying at the house, and Lu Hongxiu was taking care of her. Aunt Ku was also staying here temporarily, so Gu Yundong was completely at ease. Chapter 642. It's not a small shop. Gu Yundong, on the other hand, focused on drawing the shop's blueprint. As expected, Feng Daning brought 2 workers to the prefectural city on the 3rd day. He was very happy and energetic. He looked very motivated. Gu Yundong wanted him to rest for a day, but he refused. The moment he arrived, he asked her to bring him to the shop to take a look. Gu Yundong could only bring him to the shop and explain the situation to him with the blueprint in her hand. Previously, in Fengkai County, Feng Daning had already experienced it. The shop here was much larger, but the style was not too different. He had an idea. The interior renovation was mainly carpentry work, so the 2 handymen Feng Daning brought this time were good at this. Soon, the shop was bustling with activity. After Zheng Gang and the others left that day, Su Changshan went to Daoist Road every day to take a look. He was a little worried when he saw that the door was not open. At this moment he finally saw Zheng Gang's figure and hurriedly ran over. Zheng Gang was shocked to see him. "Why are you here?" Su Changshan chuckled. "I'm here to help." "Rascal." Zheng Gang smiled and patted his head. He did not stop him and led him into the shop. Gu Yundong was also very surprised to see him, but she was naturally happy to see him so diligent. Su Changshan was really the type of person who did not talk much but worked very hard. Occasionally, when Gu Yundong and Feng Daning discussed the structure of the shop, he would listen quietly at the side. He looked like he did not understand but was trying his best to learn. He was actually a little cute. Gu Yundong had asked a waiter from a nearby restaurant to deliver lunch. The food was delicious, but it was a little expensive. Seeing this, Su Changshan fell into deep thought. When they returned at night, it was a little late. Su Changshan was still covered in sawdust and looked dirty. When the woman next door saw this, she immediately smiled. "You ran out every day and came back listless. I knew that no shop would hire you as a shop assistant at all. Today, you finally started to look for work elsewhere? You even showed me your attitude a few days ago. Serves you right." Su Changshan ignored her and entered the courtyard excitedly. Mother Su was a little surprised to see him like this. "Is the shop not open yet?" "It's open. I saw the owner and Uncle Zheng today. The shop is being renovated. I've been helping for the entire day." Mother Su's eyes lit up. That's good. I've been worried for the past few days. I was afraid that something would happen." "Mother, don't worry. Uncle Zheng won't lie to me." Su Changshan entered the house and changed his clothes. When he came out, he said to Mother Su, "Mother, before I came back, I told the owner that there's a master working in the shop these few days. It's not convenient to eat or boil water. I thought that you should help cook for 2 days. The owner agreed. Mother Su was pleasantly surprised. "Really? I can cook for a few days?" "Yes, the boss plans to pay Mother 50 copper coins a day. It's just cooking for a few days. There's no need for money. There's no need for so much money." Su Changshan was helpless. He had said the same thing, but the boss insisted on giving it to him. He was not as eloquent as the boss, so he could only agree. Therefore, the next day, Su Chang took Mother Su to Daoist Road early in the morning. Looking at the huge 2-story shop in front of her, Mother Su's eyes could not help but widen. No, wasn't it a small shop? Chapter 643. Flower. At first, Mother Su really thought that it was just a small shop. The shop where her son used to be a shop assistant was not very big. However, regardless of whether it was a small shop or not, as long as her son had a stable job, it was much better than being a porter outside every day. Therefore, she did not even ask how much his salary was. Unexpectedly, this shop was so big. Not only were there 2 floors, but the inside was also surprisingly big. She was very happy. With such a big shop, the Gu family's business was definitely not small. Such a big shop's owner even took a fancy to her son as a shop assistant. In the future, when the Gu family's business grew bigger, Changshan would also rise and become more promising. At this moment, Mother Su heaved a sigh of relief. Gu Yundong also came early. When she saw Mother Su, she walked over with a smile. "You'll have to trouble Auntie for the next few days. This is the money for groceries. Auntie, feel free to cook any food. The workers do hard labor. The food can't be bad." Mother Su looked at the 5 taels of silver in her hand and could not help but tremble. This boss Gu was too magnanimous. This was only the second time they met, and she gave her silver just like that. She even gave her 5 taels in one go. Wasn't she afraid that she would embezzle the money? Seeing that she did not speak for a long time, Gu Yundong asked curiously, "What's wrong, Aunt? Is there a problem?" "No, no problem. They'll go buy groceries now. I guarantee that the workers will be full." Mother Su carefully took the silver and quickly found someone to ask about the market before leaving in a hurry. Gu Yundong did not have to worry about these things. She was also very busy. This was her first step out of Fengkai County, so she took it very seriously. She had personally watched over the renovation of the shop. As for transporting goods, Xiao Qingyuan had already brought Zhou and the others back to Yongfu village. This was the first time they transported goods from Yongfu village to the Xuanhe prefecture. Xiao Qingyuan had to personally lead the way before he could be at ease. He would leave the rest of the trips to Tongping and Qinjinbao. Fortunately, Uncle Feng and the rest were already familiar with it. There was no problem in communication, which made Gu Yundong much less worried. Not long after, Mother Su returned with a basket full of vegetables. At the same time, she was holding a flower in her hand, a bright and tender yellow sunflower. Gu Yundong was stunned. The flower was beautiful. She suddenly thought of what Gu Dajiang had mentioned about Madame Yang's love for planting flowers. Gu Yundong was stunned for a moment and could not help but stop what she was doing. Yes, she was very busy, but she seemed to have neglected many things. She had never noticed that her mother liked to plant flowers. Even if she knew, she did not seem to take it to heart. She only bought servants and handed her over to the servants to take care of. For the past 2 days, Lu Hongxiu had been telling her about Madame Yang's daily life. It seemed to be no different from before. She ate, drank, and did some work every day, repeating the same actions day after day. Gu Yundong had her own business. She liked to earn money and hoped that one day, she would be able to count money until her hands cramped. She had a goal and direction and could keep moving forward. Gu Dajiang and Gu Yunshu liked to read. They had left home, had classmates and teachers, and were also moving towards their goals. Yunke liked to eat, and she also liked to cook. Even though she was still young, she also had things she liked and she watched others cook seriously. Once, Gu Yundong even saw her holding mud and playing house. She repeated the process of how her sister fried the chicken drumstick without missing a single detail. Everyone seemed to have found something they liked and were working hard. Madame Yang. Chapter 644. Familiar person. Gu Yundong realized that she had always treated Madame Yang as a child. She wanted her to do whatever she wanted. Her mother could work, rest, and play as she pleased. However, she had forgotten that no matter how young a child was, they would have their own favorite things, even if it was in stages. Madame Yang liked flowers. In the past, when the Gu family's conditions didn't allow it, she didn't show it. Now that the conditions allowed it, she had already developed a habit of keeping it to herself and never mentioned it. Mother Su saw that Gu Yundong was staring at the flower in her hand without saying anything. She was a little nervous and asked softly, "Boss, is there a problem with the flower?" "No." Gu Yundong came back to her senses and hurriedly shook her head. She smiled and said, "I just think that these flowers are quite beautiful." Mother Su explained, "When I came back from buying groceries just now, I met a young lady selling flowers. I saw her accidentally trip over a rock and almost fell. I helped her up. Look, she gave me a flower. At that time, it was really quite dangerous. If the young lady really fell, she would have fallen into the water." She was actually a little afraid that Gu Yundong would misunderstand that she had used the money Gu Yundong had given her to buy flowers, so she explained very clearly. "I also think that these flowers are quite beautiful. I saw a small bottle in the backyard. I will plug it in and place it on the table. Everyone will be in a good mood just by looking at it." Gu Yundong nodded. "Then Aunt, do you know where people sell flowers nearby?" I want to buy some and bring them home. Mother Su was stunned and immediately reacted. Well, I'm not familiar with this area. However, the young lady who sold flowers just now told me that there's a market at the end of Dahui Road. It specializes in selling flowers, birds, fish, insects, cats, dogs, and some porcelain antiques and wood carvings. That young lady's stall is in the corner of the market. Gu Yundong raised her eyebrows. There was actually such a flower and bird market? She nodded and looked at Feng Danning, who was busy. She said goodbye to him and left. When the carriage reached the end of Dahui Road, there was indeed a market bustling with noise. Gu Yundong had just alighted from the carriage when she heard many people greeting her by the roadside. Come and take a look. This is my family's ancestral jade pendant. Look at the color and feeling, it's really top grade. Most importantly, it's cheap. It only costs 5 taels of silver. Gu Yundong quickened her pace. The ancestral jade pendant only cost 5 taels of silver. This was too exaggerated. At least make it more realistic. She walked inside and stopped at the place where the flowers were sold. Indeed, she saw a little girl squatting in front of a stall. However, the little girl was not in a good state at this moment. There was a small potted plant in front of her that had shattered. The flowers inside were lying on the ground, revealing their tender roots. The little girl wiped her tears sadly and carefully picked up the flower and placed it aside. Then, she slowly placed the soil on the ground into the broken jar. Gu Yundong had just frowned when she heard a mean voice. Serves you right. Who asked you to refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit? 20 copper coins for a pot is not cheap. I wanted all your flowers in one go. You and your mother could go home earlier, but you refused. You really don't know what's good for you. Gu Yundong looked in the direction of the voice and saw a middle-aged man standing there. She paused. She felt that this person looked familiar. Chapter 645. My eyes hurt. The middle-aged man was thin, but his expression was a little gloomy. There was also a stall in front of him with more than 20 pots of flowers. There were not many things, but they occupied a large area and squeezed the little girl's stall into a corner. There were also more than 20 pots of flowers in the little girl's stall, but they were all squeezed together. Almost all the small flower pots were piled together, and it was impossible to tell which potted plant those flowers belonged to. However, the little girl clearly cherished these flowers very much. On such a hot day, there were 2 paper umbrellas covering the flowers. There were even some water droplets on the flowers, as if they had just been watered. They looked especially bright and refreshing. On the other hand, the middle-aged man held an oil paper umbrella in his hand to block the sun above his head. The flowers were listless, making people not have the slightest desire to buy them. Moreover, what did he just say? He wanted to buy this girl's pot of flowers for 20 copper coins? In this day and age, expensive flowers like Yaohuang and Weizi were worth hundreds or thousands of taels. Of course, the flowers in front of the little girl were all ordinary flowers, but they were also very ornamental. It could be seen that they had been carefully taken care of. Even if they were not very expensive, they were definitely worth more than 20 copper coins per pot. This middle-aged man was quite scheming. Just as Gu Yundong was thinking, a woman suddenly rushed over from afar. She was still holding a small kettle in her hand. She must have gone to the river to get water. When she came back and saw the little girl wiping her tears, her heart ached. What's wrong? Mother, I didn't protect little Hui well. The little girl pointed at the flower on the ground, looking very sad. Her mother patted her head. Before she could comfort her, she heard the middle-aged man's mocking laughter again. Ah, you actually named flowers. Are you a fool? His words were harsh, but Gu Yundong suddenly remembered who this person was. Shopkeeper Pan. Back then, the shopkeeper who wanted to cheat Xiao Qingyuan ended up asking for trouble and was hung on a tree by Xiao Qingyuan with a rope. He had been arrested and taken away. He was already released after almost a year? Moreover, he used to be shopkeeper Pan. Now, he had fallen to the point where he could only occupy a seat here and sell flowers? Yes, he had lost a lot of weight now. No wonder Gu Yundong could not tell at a glance. However, after being in prison for so long, he still refused to change. In the past, he wanted to take advantage of Xiao Qingyuan. Now, he was bullying the women and children. He was simply hopeless. Gu Yundong shook her head and walked to the mother and daughter. She squatted down and said to the little girl, "I want to buy your flowers, okay?" The little girl looked up with tears in the corners of her eyes. Her mother also looked at Gu Yundong happily and hurriedly nodded. "Of course. Miss, you can choose whichever pot you like. Look, there are orchids, lilies, hibiscus, and mountain pellets. They're all beautiful." Gu Yundong indeed thought that they were very good-looking. The young lady also smiled through her tears and looked at Gu Yundong expectantly. When shopkeeper Pan saw that there was a customer, he hurriedly rushed forward and squeezed the little girl and her mother to the side. "Miss, if you want to buy flowers, come to my place to buy them. I have all kinds of flowers. Come and take a look. Mine are more than theirs. There are even big flowers. They're cheap and especially fragrant." Gu Yundong hated him very much. She casually glanced at the flowers in his stall and said, "Those flowers of yours are withered. I feel my eyes hurt just by looking at them. Besides, I can tell at a glance that they're sick and about to die from bug bites. I won't pay a copper coin for them." Chapter 646. Find a rope. Gu Yundong raised her voice. Shopkeeper Pan's expression changed when he heard that. The customers who were about to stop in front of his stall hurried to look at the next stall. Shopkeeper Pan was trembling with anger. He suddenly turned his head and glared at Gu Yundong fiercely. "Do you know how to speak? If you don't want to buy it, then don't. Who asked you to spout nonsense and slander my flowers? You caused me such a huge loss. You have to compensate me with silver. Otherwise, I won't let you leave today." He saw that Gu Yundong was a young girl with a heartless servant behind her. She seemed to be easy to bully. Moreover, because of the renovation of the shop, Gu Yundong was dressed simply. It was obvious that she was not a young lady from a powerful family. Young ladies from wealthy families would not come here to buy flowers. Therefore, it should not be a problem to extort a few taels of silver. The flower seller panicked when she heard that. How can you do this? This sister didn't do anything wrong. Why should she compensate you with silver? It's between her and me now. It's not your place to interrupt. Get lost." Shopkeeper Pan glared at the young lady, then looked up at Gu Yundong provocatively. Gu Yundong smiled and said to Tong Shueitao, who was behind her, "Go find a rope." Tong Shueitao responded and ran away without saying a word. Shopkeeper Pan did not understand, but it did not matter. He just had to keep an eye on Gu Yundong and not let her leave. But Gu Yundong ignored him and continued talking to the young lady and her daughter. "How much are these flowers? I want to buy them all." All of them?" The little girl was very surprised. Could it be that she had met a big client today? "Miss, if you buy them all, we can give you a discount," the mother hurriedly said. She secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Finally, she did not have to keep her daughter under the sun on such a hot day. "Yes, calculate how much it will cost," Gu Yundong said. Shopkeeper Pan was instantly dissatisfied. "Stupid girl, did you hear me? You chased my guest away just now. Don't even think about leaving if you don't pay." Gu Yundong glanced at him and continued to talk to the mother and daughter. "Little sister, do you know how to plant flowers?" The young lady was probably around 10 years old. She looked obedient, but her love for flowers was exceptionally beautiful. She pursed her small lips and nodded slightly. Her mother said, "She does know a little. Her father used to be a gardener. Later, he fell down the hill while picking flowers, so his legs are no longer nimble. Therefore, he could only plant some flowers at home to sell. She has been by her father's side since she was young and likes them very much. She knows a lot. Miss, if you don't know how to raise flowers, feel free to ask." Gu Yundong really did not know much about raising flowers. In the past, she did not have the leisure to do so. Now, she did not either. She didn't know if Madame Yang could do it. Even if she liked flowers, she might not know how to take care of them. So, damn it, you actually don't take me seriously. Shopkeeper Pan was furious. His face was livid from their disregard. He raised his foot and kicked the pots of flowers. The young lady and her daughter's expressions changed drastically, but Gu Yundong quickly kicked his ankle. Shopkeeper Pan immediately took 2 steps back. He failed to kick down the potted plant and fell to the ground. UB***tis. Before she could finish speaking, Tong Shueitao ran over. Miss, the rope is here. Gu Yundong looked at the length and nodded in satisfaction. Then she smiled and looked at shopkeeper Pan. Chapter 647. Nightmare Reappears. Shopkeeper Pan looked at her malicious smile and felt a chill in his heart. For a moment, he regretted extorting her. But it was already too late. Gu Yundong signaled with her eyes, and Tong Shueitao strode forward. The rope in her hand shook violently, and under Shopkeeper Pan's puzzled gaze, she suddenly tied him up tightly. Shopkeeper Pan's eyes widened and he immediately struggled. What are you doing? What are you doing? Let go. Help. Murder. Robbery. His high-pitched voice quickly attracted the attention of the people beside him. However, no one knew if it was because he was too unpopular or if no one believed that two young girls could deal with a man. In short, no one stepped forward to help. Instead, they laughed as if they were watching a show. Boss Pan, who would dare to kill someone in broad daylight? Don't go too far and extort money from her. A little girl can tie you up like this? All of us saw it clearly just now. You were the one who stood there motionless and let the little girl tie you up. Someone even advised Tong Shueitao, Miss, you have to be careful. In a while he will lie down and let you pay. Tong Shueitao chuckled. I'm not afraid. As she spoke, she tightened the rope and pulled Shopkeeper Pan, who was so angry that she almost bled from her 7 orifices, a few steps forward. Shopkeeper Pan staggered a few times. After a while, he stood under a big tree at the side. The tree was very tall. Shopkeeper Pan had wanted to set up the stall here to hide from the sun, but there were already many people occupying the shade under the tree. He did not dare to. Now that Tong Shueitao had pulled Shopkeeper Pan over, these people actually immediately moved aside without a word, making Shopkeeper Pan so angry that he almost fainted. Are you blind? She attacked first and she wanted to rob. If you don't save me today, don't blame me for turning a blind eye in the future. Tong Shueitao was extremely strong and threw the rope up the tree trunk. Shopkeeper Pan felt that her actions were a little familiar. He had a bad feeling. Sure enough, in the next moment, Tong Shueitao tightened the rope and lowered her hand. Shopkeeper Pan's tightly tied body was instantly pulled up and hung in the air. Shopkeeper Pan's face instantly turned pale. Put me down. Quickly put me down. Help, I'm afraid of heights. Actually, he wasn't afraid in the past. After being hung up and beaten up by Xiao Qingyuan last time, he started to be afraid. Moreover, ever since then, he had been arrested and almost thrown into prison. If he hadn't sold his family's shop and put in a lot of effort, he might not have been able to come out. Now that this terrifying memory had surged into his mind again, Shopkeeper Pan began to tremble. Tong Shueitao wrapped the rope around the tree trunk and tied it up. She clapped her hands and said, I'm just enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens. Can't you do a good business? Why do you have to bully a little girl? It's fine, but you actually want my miss to compensate? What a joke. Her miss loved money. It was already good enough that she didn't ask you to compensate her. You still want to extort her? You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Shopkeeper Pan did not hear what she said at all. His legs fluttered in the air. Put me down. I was wrong. Please spare me. Put me down quickly. Gu Yundong was a little surprised. Oh, there was finally something that was not unchanged. This guy knew how to beg for mercy? Unfortunately, it was too late. Gu Yundong ignored him and turned to ask the young lady and her daughter to help carry the flowers to the carriage outside. Chapter 648. Too unpopular. The 4 of them each took 2 pots of flowers. After a few trips, the 20 potted plants were all moved. Shopkeeper Pan was still hanging from the tree. Not only did no one care about him or put him down, they even pointed at him and mocked him. Gu Yundong shook her head. It was rare for a person to be so unpopular. In the end, a man who wanted to continue enjoying the shade under the tree put him down. When Shopkeeper Pan landed, his legs were weak and his entire face was red. Soon his face turned pale. After he regained his senses, he did not say anything and ignored everyone's teasing. He immediately packed up his potted plants in a hurry and left with his head buried. In short, he never appeared in the flower and bird market in that area again. Gu Yundong finished teaching shopkeeper Pan a lesson and bought the flowers. Then, she said to the little girl, I bought these flowers for my mother, but I don't know if my mother knows how to take care of these flowers. If you do, can you come back with me and teach my mother for a couple of days? The little girl was stunned and did not know how to answer. The mother was also a little stunned. It turned out that this customer had bought the flowers for her mother. This girl was filial, but, Miss, if you don't mind, I'll go with Xiao Yuan. What do you think? She was worried about letting her daughter go with a stranger, even if this stranger looked like a kind and friendly girl. Gu Yundong smiled. Of course I don't mind. She let the mother and daughter get into the carriage before giving them the money to buy flowers. There were a total of 20 pots of flowers, some expensive and some cheap. It was about 5 taels of silver. The little girl called Xiao Yuan was still very happy. She looked at the silver with a glowing face. There were many flowers in the flower and bird market. There were more expensive flowers that were raised well. Those rich people naturally wanted to buy those famous flowers that were carefully nurtured. Flowers like hers seemed to be everywhere. Flowers that were neither up nor down were the most difficult to sell. Sometimes she might not even sell 2 pots a day. Now that they had sold 20 pots in one go, today was a great harvest for them. Not to mention going to the customer's house to teach how to plant flowers. Even if they were asked to push all the flowers to the customer's house on a cart and arrange them one by one before watering them, they would be happy. Moreover, teaching others how to plant flowers was a very happy thing for Xiao Yuan. The mother and daughter sat in the carriage and looked at the potted plants reluctantly. The carriage drove into the south of the city and soon arrived at the area where Gu Yundong was. Xiao Yuan and her daughter were still a little nervous. They were from the Shuang prefecture. Although they didn't live in a good place, they knew that this was a place where scholars lived. They heard that the prices of houses were high, and the people coming and going were all students. They were especially polite, and it was a place that people yearned for and respected. The carriage quickly stopped at the door of the courtyard. Xiao Yuan and her mother got out of the carriage and felt that the clean street was completely different from the flower and bird market. They instantly became reserved. Gu Yundong had already pushed open the courtyard door. When she looked up, she saw Madame Yang. Madame Yang, who was sitting in the courtyard, looked at Yunke writing in a daze. She still had a sewing basket in her hand. Previously, when she was in Yongfu village, she had learned embroidery from Shuang for a period of time. She had even embroidered a few pieces of handkerchief that made her feel a sense of accomplishment. Gu Yundong had thought that she liked it very much, but now he realized that it was not the case. Chapter 649. Like Gu Yundong looked at Madame Yang, whose eyes were completely unfocused, indicating that she did not want to embroider a handkerchief at all. She suddenly felt a little sad. She exhaled slowly and called out with a smile, "Mother." Madame Yang suddenly turned around and immediately welcomed them happily. "Dong dong dong dong, you're back?" Then she saw Xiao Yuan and her mother following behind. She tilted her head curiously and asked, "Who are they?" Gu Yunke also put down the pen in her hand and quickly ran over to hug her thigh. She also tilted her head and looked at them curiously. The mother and daughter's identical cute actions instantly gave Xiao Yuan and her daughter an indescribable strange feeling. Gu Yundong stroked little Yung's head and looked at Madame Yang. "Mother, I went out today and bought you a gift. See if you like it." "I like it." Madame Yang immediately nodded before she could see it. Little Yunke joined in the fun. "I like it too." Gu Yundong was amused by the two of them. "I'll bring you to take a look." She led the two of them out of the courtyard. The carriage was still parked outside. As soon as Tong Shuitao lifted the curtain, Madame Yang was instantly attracted by the neatly arranged flowers. Looking at those bright colors, her eyes instantly lit up. Gu Yundong heaved a sigh of relief. Indeed, her mother liked it very much. "Mother, these are the flowers I bought today. Can you take care of them in the future? Xiao Yuan and her mother are over there. These flowers were bought from them. If you don't know how to take care of them, you can get Xiao Yuan to teach you." Madame Yang glanced at Xiao Yuan and smiled happily. "Okay, Come, let's move the flowers in first. As soon as Gu Yundong finished speaking, Madame Yang impatiently climbed into the carriage and moved the potted plants over. There were many people in the family. With the help of the 4 members of the Lu family, it did not take long to move all the flowers. Madame Yang was really happy. She looked around the courtyard and personally placed the potted plants. Then she pulled Xiao Yuan and started asking questions. Only then did Xiao Yuan realize that Madame Yang was different from ordinary people. She was like a child. She would even argue with her youngest daughter when she asked questions. She would even be smug when she won. Gu Yundong saw that Madame Yang's face was covered in dirt, but the smile on her face was very bright. She felt relieved. She turned around and went into the study. She did not know anything about planting flowers, but when she was looking for books on fruits last time, she had seen some knowledge points about planting flowers. It was not much, but it might be useful. Gu Yundong took out a pen and paper and took out the book from the spatial storage. She flipped through it carefully. There were indeed some methods that were suitable for this era. She copied these down and could show them to her mother later. She could study them, especially in terms of grafting. The book was a little thick and Gu Yundong spent a lot of time looking through it. From time to time, laughter could be heard in the courtyard. By the time she went out, it was already past 3 p.m. She asked Xiao Yuan and her daughter to stay for dinner, but they rejected her. Her father is still waiting for us at home. I'm afraid he'll be worried if we go back too late. Gu Yundong did not force her. She got Tong Shuetao to prepare the carriage and send them back. She also planned to go with them. She wanted to go to the shop and take a look. She also planned to take a look at the notice wall with eldest aunt and the others' portraits. Unexpectedly, just as she opened the courtyard door, she bumped into Gu Dajiang. Gu Yundong looked down. When she saw what he was holding, she could not help but laugh. Chapter 650. Tacit understanding between father and daughter. Gu Dajiang was also holding a pot of flowers. The lush crepe myrtle flowers on the branches were especially pleasing to the eye. The potted plant was a little big. When Gu Dajiang carried it back, his clothes were wrinkled and dirty. Father, did you buy this for my mother? Gu Yundong thought that she and her father really had a tacit understanding. They even sent flowers at the same time. Gu Dajiang laughed dryly and said in embarrassment, "On the way back, I bumped into someone selling these flowers, so I bought a pot for your mother. What do you think? Does it look good?" Actually, that was not the case. This flower originally belonged to the academy and was specially managed by a gardener. Gu Dajiang had wanted to buy a few pots 2 days ago, but the gardener didn't agree. He said that he couldn't make the decision. Today, the supervisor returned. Gu Dajiang went straight to the supervisor and asked him before finally bringing back a pot. Initially, he thought that if the supervisor did not agree, he would take Madame Yang to the market tomorrow to see if there were any flowers that suited her taste. However, when Gu Yundong looked at him meaningfully, he subconsciously found an excuse and changed the topic stiffly. "Are you going out? It's already so late. Why are you still going out?" Then, he saw the unfamiliar mother and daughter behind her and was slightly stunned. "These two are, I invited them to help." Gu Yundong smiled and did not say what they were helping with. "Father, I'll send Xiao Yuan and her mother home first. Hurry in and give my mother a surprise?" As Gu Yundong spoke, she called Xiao Yuan and her mother into the carriage. Gu Dajiang felt that she was very strange, especially the smile before she left. It was as if she was gloating. But he quickly threw it to the back of his mind, looking at the crepe myrtle flower in his hand, his mood soared. He was waiting to see Lun Yang's happy expression. As he thought about it, he said as he entered, "Lun Yang, when I came back today, I saw a pot of pretty flowers." Halfway through his sentence, he stopped. Gu Dajiang looked at the 20 potted plants in the courtyard in shock, as well as Madame Yang, who was squatting in front of the potted plants with a dirty face and didn't even raise her head. Not only her, even Yunka was carefully watering the potted plants, looking very happy. It was as if the mother and daughter did not hear him come back and were immersed in their own little world. He almost couldn't hold the potted plant in his hand. It was Lu Sheng who carefully stepped forward and took the thing in his hand. After a long while, Gu Dajiang slowly turned to look at the door, but Gu Yundong was long gone. No wonder. No wonder she gave him a meaningful look before she left. This girl was actually waiting for him here. She actually made fun of her father. Gu Yundong sat in the carriage and smiled. Xiao Yuan and her mother looked at each other in disbelief. Looking at the student canon Gu Dajiang was wearing, he should be this family scholar. To them, scholars were very serious and needed respect, even if this person was a relative, a father, or an elder brother. The moment they saw Gu Dajiang, the two of them immediately became reserved. However, the interaction between Lady Gu and her father was too casual. In fact, it was even more casual than that of an ordinary family. When Gu Yundong was done laughing, she slowly calmed down. Coincidentally, the carriage passed by the notice board. Gu Yundong did not get out of the carriage. She only glanced at the portraits on the notice wall. Chapter 651. Stop right there. Fortunately, this time, the portrait was clearly stuck to the wall and was not covered by the other portraits. Hopefully, those who had seen eldest aunt and the others would be able to see these portraits. There was a sea of people, so it was really too difficult to find them. She didn't know which direction eldest aunt and the rest had gone. She had gotten people to paste portraits in a few places in the Xuanhe Prefecture, Qinggan Prefecture and Wanqing Prefecture, and she had also gotten people to pay attention to them, but there was still no news. She was afraid that they had not survived that unforeseen event. There was no news. Perhaps it was good news. Gu Yundong lowered the curtain and said to Tong Shuetao, who was driving outside, "Let's go." The carriage started moving again, but Xiao Yuan could clearly feel that Gu Yundong was in a bad mood. It was not appropriate for her to ask anything. She sat there obediently and thought for a while before saying, "Sister Gu, I won't go to your house tomorrow." "Why not?" Gu Yundong came back to her senses and was distracted. Xiao Yuan said, "I've taught her everything that needs to be taught. Aunt actually has a lot of experience in raising flowers. She understands some of the things she has to pay attention to after I explain them once. Moreover, with Sister Hongxiu and the others around, there won't be a problem." Gu Yundong nodded. "All right, thank you for your hard work today." "Not at all. Sister Gu bought all our flowers. I'm so happy." Xiao Yuan smiled until her eyes narrowed into a line. "By the way, I still have some flower seeds at home. Sister Gu, do you want them?" Of course. Her mother would definitely like to plant flowers from the beginning. It would give her a sense of accomplishment to watch those seeds germinate and turn from small buds into flowers. After Gu Yundong sent Xiao Yuan and her mother back to their house, she picked a lot of flower seeds at her house. She also saw Xiao Yuan's father. His legs were indeed inconvenient. He could only walk around the courtyard with his walking stick. If he walked too far, he would not be able to take it. However, he really planted a lot of flowers. It was obvious from the fact that the courtyard was filled with more than 10 flower racks. When Gu Yundong entered the courtyard, it was as if she was in a garden. It was very beautiful. After giving Xiao Yuan the money for the flower seeds, she quickly came out with Tong Shuetao. Tong Shuetao was still a little emotional. "Actually, I quite like Xiao Yuan's family. Look at her father. He's already in such a state, but he's still working so hard to take good care of those flowers. He can even use them to earn money and maintain the family. He's much better than those people who give up on themselves after getting a little sick." Gu Yundong leaned against the carriage door and smiled. "Yes, that's why Xiao Yuan is so loving." Tong Shuetao chuckled. At the thought that Miss still had to go to the shop to take a look, she could not help but speed up. However, just as the carriage was about to leave the alley, a word suddenly floated past her ears. "Gus." Tong Shuetao was stunned. She could not help but slow down and look at the few people who were talking about Gus. Gu Yundong heard it too. She immediately lifted the curtain and looked out. The voice was already far away, but Gu Yundong could still see the back of the person who spoke. "Mississippi." Tong Shuetao looked at Gu Yundong. The latter asked her to stop the carriage and jumped down from it. She looked at the few people who were slowly walking away and shouted, "Those in front, stop right there." The few people who were talking were stunned. At first, they did not realize that she was calling out to them. One of them turned around and exclaimed when he saw Gu Yundong, "It's you? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 652. Capturing Gu Yundong as a hostage. When the others heard the sound, they immediately turned around. Gu Yundong finally saw their faces clearly. She narrowed her eyes and said, "It's indeed you." These people were the local hooligans who had come to her new shop that day to cause trouble and extort money before being taken away by Zhou. She did not expect to see them here. The moment the local hooligan saw her, he immediately thought of the experience of being kicked out of the door by Xiao Qingyuan and not being able to get up for a long time. His body subconsciously reacted and wanted to escape. However, with his underlings by his side, he could not lose face. Hence, with his powerful self-control, he finally nailed his legs to the ground and did not move. Then, he realized that the man was not around today. Not only was he not around, but the other man was also not around. There were only 2 women standing in front of him. 2 weak-looking women, and there were so many of them. What was there to be afraid of? He immediately walked forward like a hooligan and stood in front of Gu Yundong. "Oh, it's you. We meet again. We're really fated." Seeing this, the surrounding people did not dare to go forward, but they still shouted from afar, "Miss, run quickly. These people are not good people." F***CK, you're calling me a bad person in front of me? The leader of the local gang turned around to look, but the person who spoke had long disappeared. The local hooligan snorted. He turned around and brushed his hair at Gu Yundong. "Miss, don't listen to their nonsense. We're all good people." Yes. We're all good people." The others immediately echoed and laughed. Gu Yundong only looked at the leader and asked, "I heard you talking about Gus just now. What happened to Gus?" Gus was indeed her shop in Fengkai County. The shop here had not been renovated and the plaque was still being made. Therefore, the Gus that these people mentioned should be from the county. The head laughed even more wildly when he heard that. "Oh, so you heard what we said. Oh, right. You seem to own Gus, right? I heard that the shop we saw that day was also called Gus, right?" Gu Yundong narrowed her eyes. "You really know. But did you ask about us? What did you find out?" Gu Yundong felt that with the current inconvenient traffic, even if they investigated, they would only be able to find a limited amount. The leader chuckled and touched his chin. "You want to know? Sure, they'll tell you. However, I can't do it for nothing. You have to give me some face, right?" As they spoke, a few local hooligans had already come forward and blocked Gu Yundong's path. Tong Xuetao had never seen these local hooligans, but from their conversation, she could tell that they did not come with good intentions. Hence, she raised her chin slightly and naturally stood in front of Gu Yundong. She asked, "What do you want? Do you want silver?" "Silver? Of course I want it, but it's not enough." The local hooligans laughed. "Your carriage is not bad. You are not bad either." The few of them surrounded them in the middle. Tong Xuetao frowned. "Could it be that you dare to rob us in broad daylight? You probably don't know that this area is our territory. Even if you're robbed, no one will dare to speak, understand?" Not only did he want to rob, but he also wanted to take revenge. After capturing these 2 women, he could threaten the man who had beaten him to come knocking on his door. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 653. This must be an illusion. The local hooligan had a beautiful plan. He could not help but lick his lips and look at Gu Yundong with a burning gaze. However, there was Tong Xuetao in front of him, so he couldn't get close. He simply changed his target and reached out a hand to touch Tong Xuetao's face. The onlookers were furious but did not dare to go forward. After all, they all lived nearby. If you interfered today, these local hooligans would come to your house to cause trouble for your family tomorrow. The other local hooligans laughed as if they were watching a good show. However, just as the leader's hand was about to touch Tong Xuetao's face, Tong Xuetao suddenly reached out, grabbed his finger, and pressed it back fiercely. "Ah!" the leader screamed, his entire face contorting in pain. "You still dare to tease me?" Tong Xuetao snorted coldly and kicked the leader away. Not only did she kick him out, but she also went forward to beat him up. The others were stunned by this change. One of the local hooligans reacted quickly and rushed forward to help. However, not only was Tong Xuetao strong, but she also had martial arts now. Although it was just fancy moves to a true expert, it was more than enough to deal with a few hooligans. The local hooligan who rushed up to help did not even have time to react before he was directly knocked down. The others instantly stopped in their tracks, not daring to move forward. However, when someone saw Gu Yundong standing there motionless, he ran towards her without thinking. As he ran, he said, "You stop. Otherwise, I won't be polite to her." Tong Xuetao turned around and took a look. Before she could say anything, the local hooligan who wanted to hold Gu Yundong hostage was thrown to the ground. The onlookers, the local hooligans, shopkeeper Pan, who was gloating in the corner and wanted to watch the show, was also speechless. Shopkeeper Pan happened to pass by and saw Gu Yundong and the others surrounded by the local hooligans. He secretly thought that they were finally unlucky this time. He was just waiting to see them make a fool of themselves. He did not expect so many men to be unable to defeat a woman. Shopkeeper Pan's body trembled. He lowered his head and walked away silently, determined that when he saw these two women in the future, he would definitely avoid them. They were too terrifying. Gu Yundong looked at the other two local hooligans who also wanted to attack her and asked, "Can we talk nicely now?" Obviously not. The two tyrants looked at each other and rushed forward. Gu Yundong frowned. She turned to the side to avoid one of the men's hands and punched the other man in the stomach. Then she turned around and kicked the other man to the ground. In an instant, 3 people lay on the ground. Coupled with the 2 people on Tong Xuetao's side, the 5 local hooligans did not even have the chance to resist. As for Gu Yundong and Tong Xuetao, their hair was not even messy. The local hooligans were dumbfounded. The leader looked at the 2 of them in horror. They were women, right? They looked weak, right? How could they crush the 5 of them without blinking? This had to be an illusion. He was dreaming. But Gu Yundong was already walking towards him. To the local leader, Gu Yundong was like a demon who was here to take his soul. Why did he want to cause trouble for the 2 of them previously? He wanted to run, but just as he was about to stand up, a sharp pain came from his ankle, causing him to fall back again. Gu Yundong squatted in front of him. "Can you answer my question properly? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 654. The Zhou family's plan. These people were just asking for a beating. They had to suffer a beating before they were willing to cooperate obediently. It was unknown if they were fond of being physically abused. As expected, the boss nodded hurriedly. "Please ask. Since you guys went to Gus, what did you find out?" The boss swallowed his saliva. His answer was exceptionally concise. "We didn't ask around. It was Steward Zhou from the Zhou mansion who told us about Miss Family." As he spoke, he looked at her carefully. Steward Zhou said that Miss Family only came from a small county city below. She doesn't have any status or background. She opened a shop in the county city called Gus. Now that her business has expanded, she plans to open a shop in the prefectural city. Apart from these, is there anything else? The boss hurriedly shook his head. No, Steward Zhou only said that Miss doesn't have any backing. This was enough. Moreover, in just a few days, the information he could obtain was really limited. At most, he knew that Gu Yundong had opened a shop in the countryside and had a few family members. They probably did not even find out that Gu Yundong was once a refugee, right? Gu Yundong understood and nodded thoughtfully. The boss quickly said, "I've said everything I know. Can we leave now?" "One more question." "Go ahead." Gu Yundong narrowed his eyes. "Since Steward Zhou found out and told you, does that mean that he wants you to do something? To find trouble with us?" The boss' heart skipped a beat. Oh my God, why was this girl so smart? It was too scary. He quickly shook his head. No, we don't dare anymore. Answer the question." "Yes, that's the plan. But isn't your shop still being renovated recently? Steward Zhou asked us to cause trouble on the day you open business." The more he spoke, the lower his voice became. Soon, he raised his head and promised, But don't worry, we won't go. Really? Who would dare to go? These two girls were skilled. That day, when the man hit them, it was even more painful. No matter how many local hooligans they had, they would still be serving themselves to those people like food. But Steward Zhou did not give them much money. Gu Yundong knew what was going on. She looked at the local hooligan who was trying his best to squeeze out a smile and said, "No need. Just come over on the day of the opening." Gu Yundong's gaze was dangerous. "I told you to come over. Don't worry, I won't hit you." Gu Yundong narrowed her eyes when she saw that his eyes were darting around. He definitely did not intend to listen to her. "If you don't come, I'll settle scores with you later." The local hooligan was speechless. He had never seen anyone who was in a hurry to invite trouble to themselves. Was this girl crazy? "If you come, you can still earn some money from Steward Zhou. Isn't that good?" When the local hooligan heard this, he realized that it made sense. Anyway, this girl had promised not to hit them. They could still earn some money. Why not? Besides, when the time came, they would stand far away and just pretend to be there. He was dreaming. Gu Yundong sneered and finally stood up. "All right, our shop will open in 4 days. Remember to come." With that, she left with Tong Shuetao. As soon as she got into the carriage, Tong Shuetao couldn't help but ask, "Miss, the Steward Zhou that person mentioned is the person who came to cause trouble for our shop last time? Want to gift the story? Try one. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 655. Father, please help. Yes, it's that Zhou mansion. Tong Shuetao tightened her grip on the reins. That Steward Zhou is too much. Didn't he find trouble last time? He actually went to inquire about our background and even wanted to ruin the good day of our shop opening. This dog. Gu Yundong smiled. "I don't know if it's Steward Zhou's idea or Old Master Zhou's." "Miss, then let's just go to the Zhou mansion. Be it Steward Zhou or Old Master Zhou, we'll beat them up first." Gu Yundong sighed. "Why are you so violent at such a young age?" Tong Shuetao felt wronged. Actually, she had not been like this in the past. Ever since she followed Miss, she had beaten people up many times. She could not be blamed. Yes, she could not be blamed. "Miss, what should we do?" "Prepare to open for business." Gu Yundong stretched, but her tone was relaxed. However, Tong Shuetao was confused. Were they going to ignore it just like that? Of course, it was not that she did not care. Gu Yundong knew that even if she dealt with Zhou Defu today, there would still be Li Dafu or Zhao Defu eyeing her covetously. In the eyes of these people, she was just a small fry from the countryside with no foundation or background. In business, she was just a small fry that should be taught a lesson as an example, especially since her shop was in a good location now. When she made a huge profit in the future, she would probably be even more eye-catching. At that time, people who were even more powerful than Zhou Defu would definitely target her. Since that was the case, it was better to get rid of the problem in one go. The carriage went to the shop. Gu Yundong looked at the progress of the renovation. It was almost done. They could clean it up and let it dry for a few days tomorrow. The good day for opening would be 4 days later. The goods that Xiao Qingyuan was transporting would arrive tomorrow. The publicity work could begin. Feng Danning had wanted to go back after finishing his work, but Gu Yundong asked him to stay. Anyway, they could live in the small courtyard behind the shop, and Zheng Gang was staying here now. On the day of the opening, when others saw the renovation of the shop, they would definitely ask who the master was, which could help Feng Danning with his business. When Feng Danning heard this, he instantly gave up on the idea of going back. He even began to get excited and rubbed his palms together, waiting for the day of the opening. Even the 2 carpenters who came with him were excited, as if many people had already taken a fancy to their skills. They were preparing to take on business. After looking at the shop, Gu Yundong brought Tong Shuetao home. The courtyard was very lively. Not only was Madame Yang looking at the flowers, but even Gu Dajiang was squatting at the side to help her plant them. His face was dirty, and his new clothes were dragging on the ground. There were 2 footprints, one big and one small, on them. They had probably been caused by Madame Yang and Yunka. Gu Yundong rubbed his forehead and asked Gu Dajiang, "Father, don't you have to do your homework? It's holiday tomorrow. I'll take a break tonight." It was important to do homework, but it was also important to accompany his wife. It was rare for Lun Yang to be so happy. How could he read quietly in the study alone? It was also necessary to relax appropriately. Gu Yundong's eyes lit up. "Father, are you on holiday tomorrow?" "Yes, why?" Gu Yundong chuckled. "That's good. You can help me." "With what?" Gu Dajiang stood up and patted the dirt off his body. He said bluntly, "Just tell me. I can help you with anything." It was rare for his eldest daughter to ask for his help. Even if he had to climb a mountain of swords or go through a sea of flames, he had to do it. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 656. Adorable Flier. Gu Yundong could not help but twitch her lips when she saw how serious he was and how eager he was to go all out. Actually, it was not that difficult. It just took some time. The next day, Gu Yundong woke up early and handed a piece of paper to Gu Dajiang. "Father, isn't the shop about to open? After all, this is the first shop we've established in the prefectural city. No matter what, we have to advertise it, right? That's why I specially drew a flyer yesterday. Look, you happen to be on holiday today. Help me draw a few more." "Is this what you want me to help with?" Gu Dajiang took the so-called flyer from her hands suspiciously. A cute little child was drawn on a small piece of paper. The child was holding a large can in his hand. There was also a small bamboo basket tied to his waist, and a few dried fruits fell out. This little child was cute. He had a big head and a small body. He looked very different from the children in reality, but he was very cute. Furthermore, it was very eye-catching. Even one's heart would soften at a glance. Especially since the child was still drooling at the corner of his mouth. His eyes were wide with desire as he looked at the canned food in his hand. He looked like he was drooling, as if the canned food was a delicacy. It made people subconsciously swallow their saliva. It looked very appetizing. Gu Dajiang couldn't help but want to buy it when he saw it. Furthermore, there were words written beside the little person. "In the new shop, anyone who spends more than a tael of silver will be given a delicious preserved fruit." It was simple and straightforward. Many people would probably enter the shop for this portion of dried fruit. 1 tael of silver was too precious to the old Gu Dajiang. How many good things could he buy? He couldn't bear to use it to buy snacks. However, in the prefectural city, based on the classmates Gu Dajiang had known over the past 2 days, many people came from good families. They often went to restaurants for a meal that cost 10 to 20 taels. Moreover, he had also heard many people discussing the canned food they had bought at Xianxia restaurant. To these students, this thing had actually become one of the signs proving if they had connections. There was also an address written under the flyer. Although many people might not know how to read, it was fine as long as they could understand the picture. If they did not know how to read, they could ask others. Gu Dajiang felt that his daughter was really smart to think of such publicity. He immediately nodded and said, "All right, leave it to me. I'll draw as many as you want." I think that most people in the prefecture capital are certain that the canned food in Xianxia restaurant is the most authentic. We will definitely place some flyers at Xianxia restaurant. I've discussed this with Master Tao before. The rest will be distributed at the main streets. Oh right. We should also distribute some at the entrance of your academy. Before Gu Yundong could finish speaking, Gu Dajiang's hand could not help but tremble. How many pictures did he have to draw? "Father, what's wrong?" Gu Dajiang shook his head firmly. "It's nothing. I'll draw it now." There was still a long way to go. It seemed that he could not accompany his wife and daughter out. He had to help Yundong settle this matter first. Gu Yundong had never thought that Gu Dajiang would draw all of them himself. Today was a break, and he had to return to the academy tomorrow. There were so many students in the academy, right? It was necessary to make the best use of the students. Just as she was thinking, Madame Yang and Aunt Kes' voices came from the courtyard. Aunt Ku was here. Gu Yundong's eyes lit up and she hurried out. She had something to discuss with Aunt Ku. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 657. Simply a tragedy. Although Aunt Ke had been coming to the Gu residence every day for the past few days, she would still return to her own courtyard at night. When Gu Yundong came out, she had just put down the basket in her hand. There were some dates in the basket. They were bright red and looked very sweet. Aunt Ke handed the basket to Madame Niu. When she looked up and saw Gu Yundong looking at her, she raised her eyebrows. "What's the matter? Are you looking for me? Aunt is still so smart. Don't flatter me." Aunt Ke glanced at her from the corner of her eye, then stroked little Young's head. She stuffed a date into her mouth. After hearing the girls sweetly call her aunt, she retracted her hand in satisfaction and said to Gu Yundong, "Speak." Gu Yundong led her inside. As they walked, she told her what happened yesterday. After Aunt Ke heard this, she asked, "You want me to go to the Nie family to find someone to support you?" Gu Yundong chuckled and walked behind her to massage her shoulders. "Aunt Ke, you've always pitted us siblings. You know that it hasn't been easy for me. Opening a shop and doing business is like fighting a war. It's especially difficult, especially since I have no backing or background and can only fight alone from scratch. It's simply a tragedy. You're wise and mighty. Shut up. Your hypocritical words give me a headache." Tragedy? She had never seen anyone do business like her. How long had it been? Her shop had already arrived in the prefectural city and was doing business with the imperial court. How could this be called fighting alone without a background? Who would believe her? Gu Yundong coughed lightly. "I'm telling the truth. I really don't have any foundation in the prefectural city. I only know Nie Tsong in the Nie family. Even though I send something to the Nie family during the new year, how many people in the Nie family know of my existence? But Nie Tsong isn't in the Shuang prefecture, so it'll have to trouble you, Aunt." Aunt Ke glanced at her. "Alright, I understand. I'll go look for the Nie family. Actually, there's no need to find a young miss or young master. Just find a steward who often walks outside. Those people might not know the young miss and young master of the Nie family, but they were more familiar with the steward." Aunt Ke snorted. I know what I'm doing." Gu Yundong immediately massaged her shoulders even harder. Aunt Ke frowned and despised her. Go. You're just a young lady. Why are you so strong? My bones are about to be crushed by you. Go away and bring Kiki in. I don't need you." Gu Yundong was speechless. She was not very strong, right? Compared to Tong Shui Tao, she was far weaker. This was the disadvantage of being old. If she was not fragrant and soft enough, she would be despised. Therefore, Gu Yundong let go of her. She ran to the courtyard and picked up little Yunke, who was eating. She carried her into the central room and stuffed her into Aunt Ke's arms. Little Yunke was dumbfounded. She looked at her eldest sister blankly and then at Aunt Ke behind her. What happened? Gu Yundong had already turned around and left. She still had many things to do. Aunt Ke rested at the Gu residence for about an hour before she planned to make a trip to the Nie family. Gu Yundong asked Tong Shui Tao to drive her there. Aunt Ke did not refuse. The journey to the Nie family was not short. Just as she got into the carriage and walked out of the alley, a group of people turned around from another direction and entered the alley. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 658. A large group. Aunt Ke only vaguely heard a commotion behind her and lifted the curtain to take a look. She didn't care and only told Tong Shui Tao to speed up. Tong Shui Tao responded. They happened to reach the wide road. She shook the reins and the horse broke into a trot. Unexpectedly, after running for a few steps, another carriage rushed over from the opposite side. The two carriages almost collided. Fortunately, Tong Shui Tao was sharp and quick-witted. The other party was also an experienced driver. At the same time, they turned their horses to the left and right separately, narrowly avoiding a collision. However, when they brushed past each other, Tong Shui Tao saw the other party's appearance clearly. She hurriedly grabbed the reins and stopped the carriage with a whoosh. The other party also saw her and stopped. Aunt Ke, who was in the carriage, had just accidentally bumped into the ceiling and had just sat down. Just as she lifted the curtain of the carriage, she heard a familiar and irritable voice coming from the other party's carriage. "What's going on? You can't even drive the carriage steadily. Tell me, what's the use of you? Do you know that I hit my head just now and almost disfigured myself?" Aunt Ku immediately smiled. Young Master Lu is still so energetic. The other party was stunned for a moment. Soon, the curtain of the carriage was lifted, and Lu Weiss's big head suddenly popped out. There was still a grimace on his face. When he saw that it was Aunt Ku, he immediately smiled. "Aunt, where are you going?" "I'm going to do something. Are you here to look for Yundong and Qingyuan?" "Who else?" Lu Wei snorted coldly and was a little dissatisfied. "Do you think they're not kind enough? I'm such a good friend with them, but they actually came to the prefectural city to open a shop without telling me. If our shopkeeper hadn't sent me a letter, I wouldn't have known. I have to settle the score with them. All of them are inhumane." Aunt Ku actually nodded in agreement. "Indeed, then go. Remember to teach them a lesson and let them know how powerful you are. It's best if they cry and beg for your forgiveness." Lu Wei, "Aunt, you're too ruthless. Tell me, did you fall out with the Gu family and want me to charge forward as a borrowed knife?" He laughed dryly. "Well, it's not that serious. Let's just teach them a lesson. Aunt, don't you have something to do? Go ahead. I'll go to the Gu family now. Goodbye." After saying that, he hurriedly instructed Luan, who was driving, "Let's go." Aunt Ku looked at the departing carriage and shook her head. "Coward Lu, you're the young master of the Lu family after all. Can you have some backbone? Even if you're angry, you have to look angry, right?" Lu Wei only heaved a sigh of relief after walking for a long time. The carriage slowed as they entered the alley. However, because of this, he could clearly hear the conversation of the people by the roadside in the alley. "Did you see that? A large group of people went in just now. I heard that they went to look for Gu Dajiang. Who do you think they are?" "How would I know? They don't look friendly. They're most likely here to cause trouble." "No way. The Gu family has only moved in for a few days. Why would they provoke so many people? Why not? We don't even know the background of the Gu family. How would we know who they've offended?" "That's true. I heard that the Gu family came from Fengkai County. They might not be familiar with this prefectural city and have offended some rich and powerful family." When Lu Wei heard this, he panicked and hurriedly called Luan, "Quick, quick, quick. Hurry up and go to the Gu residence to take a look. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 659. Encountering a problem. Lu Weiss' carriage soon arrived at the Gu family's main entrance. Indeed, there were more than 20 people outside the Gu family's courtyard gate. They were all men of different ages and looked like they were really looking for trouble. Lu Wei hurriedly got down from the carriage, stretched out his hand, and shouted, "Hey, what are you doing? Are you surrounding someone else's house and looking for trouble?" A group of people was standing at the door to confirm if this was Gu Dajiang's house. Just as they were about to knock on the door, they suddenly heard a voice behind them. They were so frightened that they trembled and looked back in unison. Lu Wei had already rushed forward and squeezed through them to stand in front of the Gu family's door. He stretched out his hand to block the door. "Who are you? What do you want to do?" "Who are you, brother?" The one who spoke was Zhou. He couldn't help but frown when he saw how protective Lu Wei was. This group of people were the students of the Tianhai Academy. There were more than 20 of them in total. It was just that today was a break and they were not wearing the student uniform, so they looked like people who had come to find trouble. The leader was Qi Ting. When he saw Lu Wei acting like a master, he couldn't help but size him up. Lu Wei raised his chin slightly. "What are you doing?" "I'm with the Gu family." "Who are you? Tell me your names. If you're here to cause trouble, you have to—" Before he could finish speaking, the courtyard door at the back was opened. Lu Wei, who was originally leaning against the courtyard door, lost his balance and fell straight back. Qi Ting's eyes were sharp. He immediately saw the little Gu Yunka standing behind Lu Wei. Seeing that Lu Wei was about to crush her, his expression immediately changed. He rushed forward and pushed Lu Wei away. He picked up Gu Yunka, whose eyes were wide open. Lu Wei didn't fall back after being pushed like this. Instead, he staggered and hit the door at the side. There was a bang on his head, and Lu Sheng, who was reaching out to help him steady himself, was so frightened that his body trembled. Lu Wei was supported and finally managed to stabilize himself. He immediately wanted to curse. F***ck, F***ck, it was in the same spot as the carriage just now. It hurt so much. He immediately stood up and glared at Qi Ting. "You're courting death." Qi Ting raised his eyebrows and said expressionlessly, "If I hadn't pushed you just now, you would have fallen to the ground. At that time, your head would have been split into two." Lu Wei, he couldn't help but shiver. When Gu Yundong and Gu Dajiang heard the sound outside, they immediately came out to take a look. At first glance, she saw Lu Wei. "Why are you here?" Lu Wei heaved a sigh of relief and steadied himself. He looked at her and said, "You still have the cheek to ask me? You came to the prefectural city to open a shop, but you didn't tell me. You don't treat me as a friend, right?" Gu Yundong turned her head decisively and looked at Qi Ting, who was still carrying Gu Yunka. "Why are you here?" Lu Wei, break ties, break ties." Qi Ting put down the little girl, coughed lightly and said, "I just came to take a look." "We also came to take a look." Voices suddenly came from the door. Gu Yundong was shocked. She looked over and realized that there were more than 20 students standing outside the courtyard. A few of them looked especially familiar. Gu Dajiang hurriedly walked over and warmly welcomed all his classmates in. Lu Wei felt like he had been dealt a critical blow. He looked at Gu Yundong bitterly. Gu Yundong could not ignore it even if she wanted to. She could only turn her head and sigh. "It's good that you're here. I just encountered a difficult problem." "What problem?" Lu Wei instantly perked up. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 660. The acting begins. Gu Yundong glanced at him, then at the 20 students, and sighed heavily. Then she shook her head and left in distress. Everyone was speechless. What the hell was going on? After Gu Yundong entered, everyone could only look at Gu Dajiang. Lu Wei and Qi Ting, who had almost quarreled at the door, asked in unison, "What happened?" After saying that, they looked at each other in disdain and snorted. Gu Dajiang laughed dryly. He didn't know what his daughter was up to. He had been chatting happily with Yundong just now and didn't find anything difficult. Other than those flyers being too many, huh? No way? Gu Dajiang looked at the students present and somewhat understood what Yundong was up to. "Uncle Gu, tell us. I will definitely help if I can." Lu Wei was anxious. "Is there not enough money to open the shop, or is someone bullying you?" No. Gu Dajiang quickly waved his hand. "Anyway, everyone, come in and have a cup of tea. Don't stand outside." As he spoke, he asked Lu Sheng to bring everyone inside and asked, "By the way, why are you all here today? Is there anything?" He was asking the 20-odd classmates. Lu Wei had already run in to look for Gu Yundong. He was on good terms with Gu Yundong and went to ask her directly. These students stood in the central room obediently. There were too many people and not enough stools at home. Madame Niu had already run to the neighbor's house to borrow stools. They couldn't help but look at each other when they heard Gu Dajiang's question. Among these students, other than the ones who had a good relationship with Qi Ting, there were also the students from whom Gu Dajiang had taken the 20 paintings when he first went to the Tianhai Academy for Gu Yundong to guide. On today's break, they decided to visit Gu Dajiang together. Firstly, it was to nurture the relationship between classmates. Secondly, it was to invite him out for a walk. At the same time, everyone brought their paintings and asked him to help guide them. However, before they could say their purpose, they heard the lady say that her family was facing a problem. This time, they were too embarrassed to speak. And Qi Ting's goal was the canned food. He wasn't in the academy a few days ago, so he didn't meet Gu Dajiang. He only returned to the Fate Hut last night. Coincidentally, he heard that these people were planning to come to the Gu family today, so he quickly followed. Everyone was chatting and drinking tea. They thought that since the Gu family had something on, should they take their leave and come back another day? Unexpectedly, an exclamation suddenly came from inside. "What did you say?" It was Lu Wei's voice. Everyone could not help but look in the direction of the study. Gu Dajiang quickly apologized to everyone. "Everyone, take a seat. I'll go take a look." After saying that, he immediately walked towards the study. Qi Ting couldn't sit still and simply followed behind. Seeing this, the others looked at each other and walked towards the study one after another. As soon as they got closer, they heard Lu Wei's voice. "You have to draw so many, just you and Uncle Gu? It's only 3 days. Can you make it in time?" Gu Yundong sighed. "I had no choice. I had never thought of advertising it like this. There was no need to draw these flyers. Who knew that I would be targeted by despicable people when I opened a shop? I could only make it bigger so that others would not think that our family is easy to bully." As she spoke, she secretly gave Lu Wei a thumbs up when she saw the students coming over. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 659. Encountering a problem. Lu Wei's carriage soon arrived at the Gu family's main entrance. Indeed, there were more than 20 people outside the Gu family's courtyard gate. They were all men of different ages and looked like they were really looking for trouble. Lu Wei hurriedly got down from the carriage, stretched out his hand and shouted, "Hey, what are you doing? Are you surrounding someone else's house and looking for trouble?" A group of people was standing at the door to confirm if this was Gu Dajiang's house. Just as they were about to knock on the door, they suddenly heard a voice behind them. They were so frightened that they trembled and looked back in unison. Lu Wei had already rushed forward and squeezed through them to stand in front of the Gu family's door. He stretched out his hand to block the door. "Who are you? What do you want to do?" "Who are you, brother?" The one who spoke was Zhou. He couldn't help but frown when he saw how protective Lu Wei was. This group of people were the students of the Tianhai Academy. There were more than 20 of them in total. It was just that today was a break and they were not wearing the student uniform, so they looked like people who had come to find trouble. The leader was Qi Ting. When he saw Lu Wei acting like a master, he couldn't help but size him up. Lu Wei raised his chin slightly. "What are you doing?" "I'm with the Gu family." "Who are you? Tell me your names. If you're here to cause trouble, you have to—" Before he could finish speaking, the courtyard door at the back was opened. Lu Wei, who was originally leaning against the courtyard door, lost his balance and fell straight back. Qi Ting's eyes were sharp. He immediately saw the little Gu Yunka standing behind Lu Wei. Seeing that Lu Wei was about to crush her, his expression immediately changed. He rushed forward and pushed Lu Wei away. He picked up Gu Yunka, whose eyes were wide open. Lu Wei didn't fall back after being pushed like this. Instead, he staggered and hit the door at the side. There was a bang on his head, and Lu Sheng, who was reaching out to help him steady himself, was so frightened that his body trembled. Lu Wei was supported and finally managed to stabilize himself. He immediately wanted to curse. F***ck, F***ck, it was in the same spot as the carriage just now. It hurt so much. He immediately stood up and glared at Qi Ting. "You're courting death." Qi Ting raised his eyebrows and said expressionlessly, "If I hadn't pushed you just now, you would have fallen to the ground. At that time, your head would have been split into 2. Lu Wei, he couldn't help but shiver. When Gu Yundong and Gu Dajiang heard the sound outside, they immediately came out to take a look. At first glance, she saw Lu Wei. "Why are you here?" Lu Wei heaved a sigh of relief and steadied himself. He looked at her and said, "You still have the cheek to ask me? You came to the prefectural city to open a shop, but you didn't tell me. You don't treat me as a friend, right?" Gu Yundong turned her head decisively and looked at Qi Ting, who was still carrying Gu Yunka. "Why are you here?" Lu Wei, break ties, break ties." Qi Ting put down the little girl, coughed lightly and said, "I just came to take a look." "We also came to take a look." Voices suddenly came from the door. Gu Yundong was shocked. She looked over and realized that there were more than 20 students standing outside the courtyard. A few of them looked especially familiar. Gu Dajiang hurriedly walked over and warmly welcomed all his classmates in. Lu Wei felt like he had been dealt a critical blow. He looked at Gu Yundong bitterly. Gu Yundong could not ignore it even if she wanted to. She could only turn her head and sigh. It's good that you're here. I just encountered a difficult problem. What problem? Lu Wei instantly perked up. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 662, Gu Yundong's treatment. Today is supposed to be a break. It's nothing serious, someone said. Besides, we're classmates with your father. He helped us last time. It's only right for us to help him this time. Gu Yundong lowered her eyes. After a while, she looked up. Since you've said so, it's hard to reject your kindness. Thank you for your help. Then, she decisively took out a large stack of paper from the drawer, as well as more than 20 pens, and placed them neatly on the table. There aren't enough tables here. I've already gotten someone to borrow them. When the time comes, everyone make do. Everyone was speechless. Is this how you thank us? Indeed, not long after, Shuang had already instructed someone to bring over a few large desks. In the study, in the central room, even in the dining hall. The desks were set up. There were many scholars living nearby, so it was easy to borrow desks. Even if there was no desk, there were big round tables. Even if some people were unwilling, when they heard that the 20-odd people who came to the Gu family today were all students from the Tianhai Academy, they immediately helped move the tables without a word. It wasn't until they were all set up that the 20 or so students reacted. It seemed like they had been tricked. Especially the few people who followed Qi Ting. They had seen how powerful Miss Gu was last time and should have known her personality long ago. With her intelligence, what big problem could make her frown? She had set up a trap for them. Gu Yundong arranged seats for them and immediately relaxed. She clapped her hands and whispered to Lu Wei, "Thank you." "Hee, I did well, didn't I?" Lu Wei was very pleased with himself. Then he felt that something was wrong. Luan, who was standing not far away, sighed. "Young master, did you forget that you came to settle scores with Miss Gu? Previously, when you saw Aunt Ku, you swore that you'd settle the scores. Why didn't you count the scores and help her for nothing?" Because there were so many people in the family, Gu Yundong did not ask them for help for nothing. After all, they were all her father's classmates, so she had to build a good relationship with them. Therefore, she personally went to the market to pick fresh fruits and vegetables and returned with chicken, duck, and fish. As soon as she entered, she prepared a few plates of fruits and asked Shuang to send them over. She even poured white sugar water for them and even made a bowl of double-skin milk for each of them. These were foods that the children highly recommended. Seeing the white and tender double-skin milk, these students were stunned. They had never eaten it before. What was this? Even Lu Wei had never eaten it before, but it was obvious that it was good stuff. Didn't they see that Yunke was already digging and eating with a spoon? When the smooth and tender thing entered their mouths, everyone could not help but widen their eyes. Delicious! Shuang could not help but ask, "Miss Gu, could it be that this will be sold in the shop?" Gu Yundong shook his head. "This is not for sale. It's not easy to keep. Our shop sells things that can be preserved for a period of time." Zhuguang's eyes lit up. Then, before he could finish speaking, Lu Wei immediately interrupted him loudly, "Sell me the recipe, sell me the recipe. They'll sell it in Jinxia restaurant." Zhuguang turned to look at him angrily. This was too unethical. He was the one who thought of it first. Gu Yundong laughed. "All right, they'll tell you how to make it later." Lu Wei immediately became happy. His father even said that he was brainless. Just wait. When he got this recipe and sold it in the restaurant later, it would definitely become very popular and his business would rise to another level. The other students couldn't wait to eat. They were all students and didn't really care about doing business. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 662, Gu Yundong's treatment. Today is supposed to be a break. It's nothing serious, someone said. Besides, we're classmates with your father. He helped us last time. It's only right for us to help him this time. Gu Yundong lowered her eyes. After a while, she looked up. Since you've said so, it's hard to reject your kindness. Thank you for your help. Then, she decisively took out a large stack of paper from the drawer, as well as more than 20 pens, and placed them neatly on the table. There aren't enough tables here. I've already gotten someone to borrow them. When the time comes, everyone make do. Everyone was speechless. Is this how you thank us? Indeed, not long after, Shuang had already instructed someone to bring over a few large desks. In the study, in the central room, even in the dining hall. The desks were set up. There were many scholars living nearby, so it was easy to borrow desks. Even if there was no desk, there were big round tables. Even if some people were unwilling, when they heard that the 20-odd people who came to the Gu family today were all students from the Tianhai Academy, they immediately helped move the tables without a word. It wasn't until they were all set up that the 20 or so students reacted. It seemed like they had been tricked. Especially the few people who followed Qi Ting. They had seen how powerful Miss Gu was last time and should have known her personality long ago. With her intelligence, what big problem could make her frown? She had set up a trap for them. Gu Yundong arranged seats for them and immediately relaxed. She clapped her hands and whispered to Lu Wei, "Thank you." "Hee, I did well, didn't I?" Lu Wei was very pleased with himself. Then he felt that something was wrong. Luan, who was standing not far away, sighed. "Young master, did you forget that you came to settle scores with Miss Gu? Previously, when you saw Aunt Ku, you swore that you'd settle the scores. Why didn't you count the scores and help her for nothing?" Because there were so many people in the family, Gu Yundong did not ask them for help for nothing. After all, they were all her father's classmates, so she had to build a good relationship with them. Therefore, she personally went to the market to pick fresh fruits and vegetables and returned with chicken, duck, and fish. As soon as she entered, she prepared a few plates of fruits and asked Shuang to send them over. She even poured white sugar water for them and even made a bowl of double-skin milk for each of them. These were foods that the children highly recommended. Seeing the white and tender double-skin milk, these students were stunned. They had never eaten it before. What was this? Even Lu Wei had never eaten it before, but it was obvious that it was good stuff. Didn't they see that Yunke was already digging and eating with a spoon? When the smooth and tender thing entered their mouths, everyone could not help but widen their eyes. Delicious! Zhuguang could not help but ask, "Miss Gu, could it be that this will be sold in the shop?" Gu Yundong shook his head. "This is not for sale. It's not easy to keep. Our shop sells things that can be preserved for a period of time." Zhuguang's eyes lit up. Then, before he could finish speaking, Lu Wei immediately interrupted him loudly, "Sell me the recipe, sell me the recipe. I'll sell it in Jinxiu restaurant." Zhuguang turned to look at him angrily. This was too unethical. He was the one who thought of it first. Gu Yundong laughed. "All right, they'll tell you how to make it later." Lu Wei immediately became happy. His father even said that he was brainless. Just wait. When he got this recipe and sold it in the restaurant later, it would definitely become very popular and his business would rise to another level. The other students couldn't wait to eat. They were all students and didn't really care about doing business. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 664. Lu Wei's marriage. Lu Wei was stunned and felt a little guilty. He took a small step back. "Why, you've been to the Lu family?" "Yeah, and then I heard something." Lu Wei turned around and left. "I still have something to do. I'll take my leave first." However, just as he turned around, he was pulled back by Xiao Qingyuan. Gu Yundong was curious. "What did you hear?" She really thought that Lu Wei had rushed over in such a rage because they had not told him about coming to the prefectural city. So it wasn't? Xiao Qingyuan glanced at Lu Wei and said, "Old Master Lu was arranging a wife for Lu Wei. He was unwilling, so he fled to the prefectural city." Gu Yundong was stunned and looked at Lu Wei in surprise. Lu Wei was 18 years old this year, 2 years younger than Xiao Qingyuan. Usually, in this era, 15 or 16-year-olds should get married. Didn't you see that Tao Xing and Peng Zhongfei, who were about the same age as him, already had many wives and concubines? Lu Wei's family background was good, and it wasn't like he couldn't afford a wife. His situation was also different from Xiao Qingyuan's, so why was he unwilling? Could it be that he liked men? Gu Yundong's imagination started to run wild. He looked at Lu Wei warily. This guy liked to stick to Xiao Qingyuan. Could it be that he had other thoughts? Lu Wei didn't notice the look in her eyes. He just said with a long face, "You don't understand my pain at all." "What pain?" "My father thinks that I'm too jumpy and unruly, so he wants to find a fierce woman to control me." Lu Wei simply wanted to die. "Do you think he's my biological father? How can he harm his son like this? Is there anyone like him?" Gu Yundong blinked. Old Master Liu's idea was indeed very strange. However, what she did not know was that she was the one who gave Old Master Liu such a thought. Lu Wei was especially mischievous when he was young. When he grew up, he didn't get any better. A few years ago, when he reached the age of marriage, his family had arranged many marriages for him. In the end, he sabotaged them all. Old Master Liu was so angry that he did not want to care about his son. Later, when he met Gu Yundong, he watched helplessly as his son obediently listened to Gu Yundong. He suddenly had a plan and felt that he had finally found a woman who could subdue his son. At that time, Old Master Liu even wanted Lu Wei to marry Gu Yundong. Unfortunately, she had Xiao Qingyuan by her side, and he was watching her too closely. So he could only look for other people, but there were too few girls like Gu Yundong. Those who were worthy of his family background were too dignified and not fierce enough. For those who were fierce enough, their family background was not good enough. Gu Yundong was poor at first, but she was capable. If she had a strong temper and was not capable and did not have a family background, Old Master Liu would still feel that he had wronged his son. Hence, after half a year, he finally found one. However, his son didn't cooperate and actually ran away. Old Master Liu was so angry that he almost fell sick. Gu Yundong was enlightened after hearing this. She sympathized with Lu Wei. In ancient times, parents had always been in charge of marriage. For someone like Lu Wei, it was already good enough that his father didn't use him for business alliance. In short, he'll hide in the prefectural city for now. He'll return after this storm passes. Besides, aren't you opening in a few days? He'll help you. After saying that, Lu Wei quickly threw this matter to the back of his mind and went to work happily. Lu In watched from the beginning to the end and complained in his heart, "Young master, didn't you say that you would settle scores with them? Can you succeed once? This is too tragic. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 664. Lu Wei's marriage. Lu Wei was stunned and felt a little guilty. He took a small step back. "Why, you've been to the Lu family?" "Yeah, and then I heard something." Lu Wei turned around and left. "I still have something to do. I'll take my leave first." However, just as he turned around, he was pulled back by Xiao Qingyuan. Gu Yundong was curious. "What did you hear?" She really thought that Lu Wei had rushed over in such a rage because they had not told him about coming to the prefectural city. So it wasn't? Xiao Qingyuan glanced at Lu Wei and said, "Old Master Liu was arranging a wife for Lu Wei. He was unwilling, so he fled to the prefectural city." Gu Yundong was stunned and looked at Lu Wei in surprise. Lu Wei was 18 years old this year, 2 years younger than Xiao Qingyuan. Usually, in this era, 15 or 16-year-olds should get married. Didn't you see that Tao Xing and Peng Zhongfei, who were about the same age as him, already had many wives and concubines? Lu Wei's family background was good, and it wasn't like he couldn't afford a wife. His situation was also different from Xiao Qingyuan's, so why was he unwilling? Could it be that he liked men? Gu Yundong's imagination started to run wild. He looked at Lu Wei warily. This guy liked to stick to Xiao Qingyuan. Could it be that he had other thoughts? Lu Wei didn't notice the look in her eyes. He just said with a long face, "You don't understand my pain at all." "What pain?" "My father thinks that I'm too jumpy and unruly, so he wants to find a fierce woman to control me." Lu Wei simply wanted to die. Do you think he's my biological father? How can he harm his son like this? Is there anyone like him? Gu Yundong blinked. Old Master Liu's idea was indeed very strange. However, what she did not know was that she was the one who gave Old Master Liu such a thought. Lu Wei was especially mischievous when he was young. When he grew up, he didn't get any better. A few years ago, when he reached the age of marriage, his family had arranged many marriages for him. In the end, he sabotaged them all. Old Master Liu was so angry that he did not want to care about his son. Later, when he met Gu Yundong, he watched helplessly as his son obediently listened to Gu Yundong. He suddenly had a plan and felt that he had finally found a woman who could subdue his son. At that time, Old Master Liu even wanted Lu Wei to marry Gu Yundong. Unfortunately, she had Xiao Qingyuan by her side, and he was watching her too closely. So he could only look for other people, but there were too few girls like Gu Yundong. Those who were worthy of his family background were too dignified and not fierce enough. For those who were fierce enough, their family background was not good enough. Gu Yundong was poor at first, but she was capable. If she had a strong temper and was not capable and did not have a family background, Old Master Liu would still feel that he had wronged his son. Hence, after half a year, he finally found one. However, his son didn't cooperate and actually ran away. Old Master Liu was so angry that he almost fell sick. Gu Yundong was enlightened after hearing this. She sympathized with Lu Wei. In ancient times, parents had always been in charge of marriage. For someone like Lu Wei, it was already good enough that his father didn't use him for business alliance. In short, he'll hide in the prefectural city for now. He'll return after this storm passes. Besides, aren't you opening in a few days? He'll help you. After saying that, Lu Wei quickly threw this matter to the back of his mind and went to work happily. Lu In watched from the beginning to the end and complained in his heart, "Young master, didn't you say that you would settle scores with them? Can you succeed once? This is too tragic. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 666. Opening on the 8th day of the 9th month, the weather was clear. It was suitable to marry, enter the house, and open for business. Early in the morning, the Gu family tidied themselves up in high spirits. Other than Gu Dajiang, who was still going to the academy, everyone else went to Gus's shop on Dahui Road. At the same time, many people in the city rubbed their palms together and prepared. The flyers clearly stated that if they spent a tael of silver, they could receive a bag of dried fruits for free. 1 tael of silver was not a lot to many people in the prefectural city. Even if they did not have it, some smart people wanted to pool it together with others. If each of them bought a little, they would be able to get a bag of dried fruits. Among them was Madame Sun, the neighbor of the Su family. Madame Sun also happened to receive a flyer 2 days ago. After getting someone to help read the words on it, she was immediately interested. She had long heard about this canned food. She heard that it was very delicious. The supply in Xianxia restaurant was not enough, and the price was especially expensive. It was not easy to buy. Madame Sun did not have the connections to buy it with money, but there were canned foods sold in other shops. It was just not authentic and was cheap. She had bought it and eaten it. The taste was simply indescribable. It had a strange taste. When she heard that the Gu family shop was selling the canned food from Xianxia restaurant, she had an idea. Coincidentally, her son had given her his salary a few days ago. She was not very tight on money. Therefore, early this morning she put on her new clothes and went out to look for the other 2 neighbors. Unexpectedly, the moment she opened the courtyard door, the Su family next door also opened. Su Changshan was also wearing brand new clothes and was standing at the door talking to Mother Su. "Mother, I might be back late tonight. You and little sister can eat first. You don't have to wait for me." Mother Su nodded. "I know. Hurry up and go. Don't delay your work." Madame Sun giggled when she heard that. "Yo, you're going to work in a small shop, and you even specially made new clothes. Look at how capable you are." Mother Su and Su Changshan ignored her. Madame Sun snorted and left. Only then did Su Changshan say, "Mother, when I earn money, Well, buy a bigger courtyard and not be neighbors with her. All right, mother will wait. Mother Su wiped the corners of her eyes and said with relief. Not only did she not want to be neighbors with Madam's son, but she also did not want to be neighbors with those who had mocked her son and avoided her family like snakes and scorpions. Su Changshun left quickly. Gus was about to open for business today. He was completely relieved. When he arrived at the shop, Gu Yundong and the others had just arrived. When they saw Su Changshun, they nodded slightly. Come in. The shelves in the shop were already filled with things. There were canned white sugar fruits, dried fruits, and jam from the fruit shop. There were also all kinds of exquisite sweets. There was a dazzling array of things. As soon as Su Changshun entered, he rolled up his sleeves and got busy. Unexpectedly, Gu Yundong waved her hand. There's no hurry. Come with me. On the first day, besides Zhenggang, Su Changshun, and Shu, people including Zhou, Chen Jinbao, Tong Ping, Shui Rong, Lu Xing, and even Madame Niu, Lu Hongxiu, and Tong Shuitao had to help receive the guests. Feng Danning and the others had wanted to help, but they were not hired workers. Moreover, she had enough manpower, so Gu Yundong did not agree. She only said that they should rest in the backyard. If anyone asked about the renovation of the shop, she would bring them over. They followed Gu Yundong into the backyard and saw her get someone to bring out a large box from her room. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 667. Work clothes. Everyone was puzzled. Gu Yundong had already opened the box and it was filled with many clothes. Gu Yundong took out a piece from inside and said, "The shop is opening today. In order to make it easier for the customers to find the shop assistants, everyone's clothes are the same. I asked a ready-made clothes shop to make this a few days ago. I only received it last night. Everyone, go to the house and change after taking it." The clothes in Gus' shop had always been the same. It was the same in the county city. At first, the clothes for Zhenggang and Zhuangzi were bought from a ready-made clothing store. Later on, Xianxia came. She was good at this and was fast. The clothes she designed were all good-looking. Gu Yundong asked Xianxia to help. Firstly, it was to take care of her business so that she could earn more money. Secondly, she could do better than in the ready-made clothing shop. She could satisfy all of Gu Yundong's requests. Until now, Zhenggang and Zhuangzi had 2 sets of clothes every season. The treatment was already very good. At the very least, Zhuangzi was very happy. Every time he was given new clothes, he was happy to clean the shop from top to bottom. Now that she was in the prefectural city, she naturally had to do the same. However, Xianxia was not around, so she could only get the ready-to-wear shop here to help make it. "Uncle Zheng, this is yours." Gu Yundong handed him the set of clothes. Zhenggang was already very calm. After all, he had accepted work clothes many times. However, with new clothes to wear, who wouldn't be happy? In the end, he was still happy. However, Su Changshun was not calm. When his name was called, he was in a daze. It was only when he received the clothes that he looked up in shock. The shop still cared about the shop assistant's clothes? This was too good. Not only was the salary high, but there was also free clothes. He looked at the clothes he was wearing and touched the clothes in his arms. He realized that the clothes given by the boss seemed to be made of better material. There were not only clothes for men, but also those for women. However, they were different. The women's were better looking and their colors were brighter. The people who received the clothes were overjoyed. Seeing that it was getting late, they quickly turned around and went into the house to change. When they came out, they looked brand new. Other than the fact that Zhenggang's clothes were different, the shop assistant's clothes were all the same. There was a word, "gu," on their arms, but this word could be removed. If the clothes were old and they wanted to give them to others to wear, they could just remove the word. Alright, everyone has changed. We can start preparing now. The shop will open at 8 in the morning. There's still an hour left. Everyone, prepare the tea and food. Don't miss it. After she finished speaking, everyone went to prepare. Not long after, Aunt Ku arrived. Gu Yundong had been looking at the time. Seeing that it was almost time, she quickly got someone to prepare firecrackers. Open, now. When the time was up, she had a smile on her face as she waved her arm and shouted. As soon as the door opened, the shop assistants in uniform immediately stood on both sides. Xiao Qingyuan ignited the firecrackers. Soon, crackling sounds sounded on the street and instantly spread far away. Zhou Defu, who was sitting in the carriage, paused. He narrowed his eyes slightly and asked Steward Zhou, "Is it open?" "Judging from the commotion, it should be open," Steward Zhou replied respectfully. "Don't worry, old master. I've already prepared everything." As he spoke, his expression was vicious. He blamed all the injuries he had suffered on Gu Yundong and the others. Today, he was going to make sure that Gus could not continue operating. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 668. Waiting to cause trouble. How could Zhou Defu not be furious? The first time he saw her, his son was thrown onto a horse and almost lost his life, and he had even been extorted for more than 1,000 taels of silver. The second time they met, he was pretending to be a good-natured person. Not only did he flee in fear, but he also had to deal with those local hooligans. Initially, he thought that Gus had some impressive backer. In the end, after checking, she was just a bumpkin from the countryside. She had just opened a shop in the county city and was already extremely arrogant. She did not even know how to restrain herself when she came to the prefectural city. She was simply detestable and deserved to die. He gently knocked on the wall of the carriage and said to Ah Feng, who was driving outside, "Hurry up." He didn't want to miss the fun. "Yes, master." Compared to Zhou Defu and Steward Zhou's optimism, Ah Feng looked worried. After some thought, he could not help but say, "Master, that young master and lady are both skilled. Those local hooligans only know how to talk. If they really attack, I'm afraid one person can beat them down." Before Zhou Defu could reply, Steward Zhou sneered and said, "Don't worry, I've already prepared everything. Those local hooligans don't have much ability, but I found a few skilled escorts to hide among them. When the time comes, those escorts will keep the man and woman occupied, and the others will destroy their entire shop." Ah Feng frowned and did not say anything else. He was just a guard, only responsible for protecting his master's safety. The master had asked Steward Zhou to take care of everything else. The carriage soon arrived at the alley not far from Gus. Ah Feng stopped. Steward Zhou got down from the carriage and looked around. He had already seen the local hooligans hiding elsewhere. He nodded slightly at them. However, the local gang leader had mixed feelings at this moment. He originally thought that they were just going through the motions. Who knew that Steward Zhou would actually stuff a few tall and powerful experts into their place? This made the local hooligan not dare to be perfunctory. Even if he had to brace himself, he could only go up. But on second thought, with these experts around, what was there to be afraid of? He was not afraid. He could take revenge on the man and the two women. Steward Zhou whispered to Zhou Defu, who was in the carriage, "Master, those local hooligans are also here. They're waiting for our orders. When should we take action?" Zhou Defu looked in the direction of Gus. Gus had already opened. Gu Yundong and Xiao Qingyuan were standing outside. The firecrackers had just ended and there were already people walking in. He snorted softly. "Let's wait a little longer. The door has just opened. I'll be lively when there are more people later." "Understood." Steward Zhou nodded and looked in the direction of Gus. After a while, he muttered, "I didn't expect there to be so many people. Didn't they distribute the paintings on the street a couple of days ago? They only know how to do such fancy things. Look, most of the people are here for the free bag of dried fruits after paying a tael of silver. They're all commoners who are greedy for small benefits and don't have much money." Steward Zhou nodded in agreement. After all, those people were not dressed well and all of them were timid and hesitant. But soon, he frowned and saw a familiar figure striding into Gus' shop. "Master, that person seems to be..." Zhou Defu also saw it and immediately frowned. A moment later, he came to a realization. They're both from Fengkai County. They probably know each other. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 669. The people of the Nye residence are actually here. Yes, this Gus seems to be selling canned food. Canned food like those in Xianxia restaurant. Steward Zhou nodded, feeling extremely unhappy. Zhou Defu and Gu Yundong saw Lu Wei and the manager of Xianxia restaurant. The manager was holding a gift box and congratulated Gu Yundong as soon as he entered. It's an auspicious day to open for business. Mississippi Gus place is indeed lively. Shuang came up to take the gift box and invited Lu Wei and the shopkeeper inside. Lu Wei waved his hand. You don't have to entertain me. I'm just here to help. Shuang ignored him and only served them sugar water. After a while, another carriage stopped outside and someone alighted from it. As soon as he entered, he greeted them with a smile. Boss Gu, your business is booming. Gu Yundong was stunned. Before she could react, she saw the manager of Xianxia restaurant stand up and welcome him. So it's old Master Zhou. Old Master Zhou? Gu Yundong suddenly thought of Zhuguang. Welcome, old Master Zhou. Please come in. Please forgive me for my lack of hospitality. Old Master Zhou laughed and said, Boss Gu, you're too polite. I've long heard from our Zhuguang that Boss Gu is smart and capable. You opened such a huge shop in the prefectural city and your business is the rare canned food and white sugar. Last time, that kid brought back a lot of good things from Boss Gu, and we were extremely greedy. Gu Yundong did not expect old Master Zhou to be so straightforward. She immediately smiled. Old Master Zhou, you praise me so much that I'm embarrassed. You flatter me. These are just small things. Please don't laugh at me. You're being modest, aren't you? I've been looking forward to the opening of your shop for a long time, so I came over early in the morning. Later, you have to leave some canned food for me to bring back. Of course. Gu Yundong asked Shuang to bring him to sit in the backyard. She also kicked Lu Wei to the backyard to chat with him. Old Master Zhou asked the people behind him to bring the gifts over. Gu Yundong had just ordered someone to serve tea when two more carriages stopped outside. Gu Yundong still did not know him, but one of them looked very familiar. She could tell at a glance that he was the brother of the student surnamed Kai who had pretended to be Mountain Elder Qi in the Fate Hut the other day. They were too similar. As expected, that person introduced himself. He was Kai Yong's elder brother. The father of another student came with him. They looked like scholars, polite and elegant. Gu Yundong went forward and exchanged a few pleasantries before they were led to the backyard by Xiao Qingyuan. Not long after, a few more people came in with gift boxes. In the carriage opposite Gus' shop, Zhou Defu frowned slightly. Steward Zhou also had a bad feeling in his heart. Master, those people who are coming don't seem to be ordinary commoners. He knew the shopkeeper of Xianxia restaurant, but he was not very familiar with old Master Zhou and the others. But from the looks of it he was probably not from an ordinary poor family. Zhou Defu frowned slightly. Wait for another 15 minutes and get those to do it. For some reason he felt uneasy. His heart was racing, as if something big was about to happen. Steward Zhou swallowed his saliva and was about to nod when he suddenly saw a familiar figure. His eyes widened. Master, that seems to be the steward of the Nye residence. Nye residence? Zhou Defu suddenly looked in the direction he was pointing at and saw a carriage parked at the entrance of Gus. Chapter 670. The familiar Nye Shuang. Then, a person alighted from the carriage. Zhou Defu was very familiar with that person. Wasn't he steward Nye of the Nye residence? This steward was the one that Zhou Defu could not get close to. At most, they could only come into contact with the junior stewards of the Nye family. Zhou Defu couldn't stay calm anymore and got out of the carriage. Why is the steward of the Nye residence here? Steward Zhou shivered and tried his best to make up for it. With a trace of hope, he said, Perhaps they also like the canned food sold by Gus? Master, think about it. This canned food is so rare. The Nye family might also want a share of it, so they came to pressure Gus? As soon as he finished speaking, the steward turned around and respectfully walked to a carriage at the back. He personally lifted the curtain. Soon, a girl who was only 14 or 15 years old came out. Who is that lady? Zhou Defu asked. Steward Zhou swallowed his saliva. To be respected by that steward, I'm afraid she's the young lady of the Nye residence? Gu Yundong did not expect the eldest daughter of the Nye family to come personally. She had told Aunt Ku that it was enough as long as there was someone in charge. Unexpectedly, not only did the steward come, but this girl called Nye Shuang also appeared at the door of Gus. As soon as she arrived, she walked towards Gu Yundong, who was at the door. She held her arm as if they were close friends. "You're Miss Gu, right? My brother told me about you, and Aunt Ku kept praising you. I've wanted to see you for a long time, but I never had the chance. I couldn't go to Yongfu village when you were there. I finally meet you today." Aunt Ku glanced at her. "All right, it's your first time meeting and you're already pulling each other. Where are your manners? Although this is the first time we've met, we've been remote friends for a long time. I've long heard of Miss Gu." Aunt Ku tugged at her. "All right, so be it. Don't stand at the door and block the customers. There are so many people. What if you bump into them?" Nye Shuang stuck out her tongue. Aunt Ku pulled her inside, but she still turned to Gu Yundong indignantly and said, "I'll talk to you later when you're not busy anymore. By the way, the food at your shop is delicious. We really like the gifts from the previous 2 times. My father originally planned to come personally to congratulate you on your opening today, but unfortunately, he's occupied with something. I've come on behalf of him. My father asked me to thank you." Steward Zhou, who had quietly run to the door of Gus to ask about the specific situation, happened to hear these words. His face immediately looked as if he had been struck by lightning. Then what did eldest Miss Nye say? Did she mean that Boss Gu had known the Nye family for a long time and was so familiar with them that they had sent each other gifts twice? Was old Master Nye planning to come personally for the opening of such a small shop? In the end, he could not come, so he sent eldest Miss and the steward over? Gus was so close to the Nye family? Steward Zhou was in a daze, but Gu Yundong shook her head and laughed as she watched Aunt Ku take Nye Shuang away. Before she could say a word, Nye Shuang had already finished speaking. However, Nye Shuang's personality was straightforward. There was also old Master Nye. Indeed, the more successful someone was, the more low-key and humble they would be. She had learned a lesson. Gu Yundong thought for a moment and called Lu Hongxiu over. "Go to the kitchen in the backyard and take out the food box I placed in the cupboard. Offer Miss Nye a portion of the things inside." As she spoke, she handed Lu Hongxiu a key. Lu Hongxiu quickly responded and hurried to the back. Chapter 671. This is milk tea. There was indeed a cabinet in the kitchen. Lu Hongxiu didn't know that Miss had brought a food box with her when she left in the morning. She carefully took out the food box and removed the lid. There was a rather large ceramic pot inside. Lu Hongxiu was stunned for a moment. Just as she was about to open the door, she heard footsteps outside. In the next moment, her sister, Lu Hongqiao, appeared with second Mississippi Gu Yunka ran to her and climbed up the stool. Her eyes lit up when she saw the ceramic pot. "Sister Hongxiu, do you know what this is?" Lu Hongxiu opened the box and saw water inside. No, it wasn't water. The color was a little turbid, like beige, but it was lighter. However, it emitted a strong sweet fragrance that made Lu Hongxiu swallow her saliva. She looked at Gu Yunka, who seemed to know it very well, and asked with a smile, "Does second Miss know what this is?" "Of course, this is milk tea." The little girl was very proud. Her chubby little hand took the porcelain spoon at the side and gently stirred it. When she picked it up again, there were a few brown beads in the spoon. "This is delicious." The young lady put down the spoon and slid down from the stool. She took out a cup and handed it to Lu Hongxiu. Lu Hongxiu looked at the young lady's eager expression and knew that she really wanted to drink it. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Second Miss, if you want to drink it, you have to ask first Miss first." The little girl pouted. "No, I don't want to drink it." Lu Hongxiu was puzzled. Lu Hongqiao explained. Second Miss drank it before she left and knew that it was called pearl milk tea. She was afraid that sister didn't know, so she came to tell her. Lu Hongxiu was stunned. She looked at the little girl warmly. "Thank you, second Mississippi." As she spoke, she carefully scooped out the milk tea. Then, she covered it again and placed it in the cabinet. She carried the milk tea out. Nye Shuang was on the second floor. The backyard was filled with men, so it was inconvenient for a lady to come. The scenery on the second floor was good and the view was great. Shuang liked it very much. However, she was alone at this moment. Other than the maidservant, there was no one to talk to. She could only look at the environment on the second floor. With one look, she realized that this place was actually different from the restaurants and tea houses she had seen in the past. There were a few tables on the second floor. They were not very big. Some were round, some were square, and some were rectangular. Then there were a few small stools and small chairs. What was strange was that be it the stools or chairs, there were soft cushions on them. It was especially comfortable to sit on. There were 2 long chairs in the empty space. There were also soft cushions on them. She felt like she could lie on them and sleep. The table was white and looked refreshing. There were wooden carvings and some books on the cabinets on the left and right. Shuang thought that they were the boring 4 books, 5 classics, or female commandment. In the end, she took some out and flipped through them. Whoa, storybooks? Shuang's eyes instantly lit up. Heavens, what kind of godly place was this? She felt that she could stay here for the entire afternoon without moving. As long as she had a storybook, it was enough. Yes, there was also Go at the side. There was also a brush, ink, paper, and inkstone that she seemed to be able to write and draw with. Shuang was a little excited. Could she get a few friends to play chess and read books with her later? Just as she thought about it, Lu Hongxiu came up. She was carrying a tray with fruit, food, and a cup on it. Tea supposedly? Miss Nya, my miss specially prepared this for you. This is the preserved fruits and canned food sold in the shop. There are also snacks. This is milk tea. Chapter 672, very agile. As soon as she finished speaking, a small head appeared behind her and added, pearl milk tea. Shuang was stunned. Before she could understand what the milk tea was, she was distracted by Gu Yunka. Looking at the tender little girl, her eyes lit up. Your little Yunka? Yeah. Shuang immediately stretched out her hand. So cute. Come over and let me hug you. She was a little like Aunt Ku. She could not resist children. Especially since Aunt Ku and Yetsong had mentioned Gu Yunshu and Gu Yunka to her. She had wanted to meet them for a long time. Now that she saw her, the girl was even cuter than she had imagined. She immediately felt her heart melt. Little Yunka giggled and came out from behind Lu Hongxiu. She was immediately carried into Shuang's arms. Your family's shop is opening today. Why you here? There are so many people coming and going. What if they bump into you? The little girl shook her head. Don't be afraid. I'm very agile. They can't hit me. Agile? Shuang looked her up and down. The little girl was only 4 years old. She was chubby and her legs were short. She really could not see how she was agile. Lu Hongxiu put down her things and left. Only then did Shuang see Lu Hongxiu standing at the back. As soon as she looked puzzled, the little girl in her arms got off the ground and introduced her to her little playmate. Shuang was a little childish. She knew that this was a servant of the Gu family, but the feelings between children were very pure, so she also patted Lu Hongqiu's head very kindly. Lu Hongqiu's face immediately turned red and she looked a little shy. Shuang couldn't help but laugh. He picked up the milk tea on the table and took a sip. She blinked and took another sip to make sure it wasn't an illusion. Her eyes widened and she looked down at the contents of her teacup. What was this? She had never drunk it before. It didn't look like sugar water or fruit wine, but it was delicious and fragrant. Shuang could not help but pursed her lips again. Just as she was about to put the cup down, she heard a childish voice. Isn't it delicious? Shuang looked down and saw the little girl's short body standing by the table. Because she was small, her small hand was on the edge of the table as she stared at her with wide eyes. She immediately smiled. Do you want to drink it? The little girl's eyes were filled with desire. Just as Shuang thought that she wanted to drink it, she saw her shake her head decisively. No. Why not? She clearly wanted to drink it. I drank it this morning. However, when she watched others drink it, it was equivalent to drinking it herself. Hence, the little girl urged her anxiously, hurry up and drink it. My eldest sister made it. The round things are called pearls. They're edible. Try them. Shuang looked at her big, proud eyes, clearly revealing the meaning of, my elder sister is the best, and the food my elder sister makes is the most delicious on earth. There was a moment when she wanted to take her home and treat her as her younger sister. Shuang took a spoon and scooped a mouthful of pearls. They were actually soft and elastic, rolling around in her mouth. What was this? How could there be such a magical thing? She took another sip of milk tea and realized that this thing was actually addictive. She drank one mouthful after another and couldn't stop at all. It was not until she had drunk more than half of the cup that she suddenly stopped. No, if she drank any more, she would finish it. If she finished it, it would be gone. Oh right, she could look for Gu Yundong and buy it home. Chapter 673. Beaten up again. Shuang controlled her eyes from glancing at the milk tea. Then, she said to the young lady who was looking at her eagerly, waiting for her to praise the milk tea, Kiki, wait for me here first. I'll go look for your elder sister. I'll be back soon. As she spoke, she stood up and instructed the maidservant standing at the door, take good care of the two children. Without waiting for the maidservant to respond, she went downstairs. Gu Yundong was still welcoming the guests at the door. There were a lot of people today. She really did not expect her father's 20-odd classmates to be so influential. Almost every family had sent people over. Now, the courtyard behind her shop was almost full. The problem was that these people were actually very happy to gather together and talk. At the same time, Zhou Defu and the others were also in a daze. Actually, the Zhou family was not the only one eyeing the Gu family's shop. Many people in the prefectural city knew that such a shop that specialized in selling canned food and white sugar was about to open. After all, the flyers were everywhere. Therefore, many people with some family background wanted to see what kind of background the Gu family had. If she didn't have any background, they could pressure her to hand over the recipe for the canned food. If she had some backing but wasn't very powerful, they could cooperate and let her supply the goods. It would be a win-win situation for everyone. However, from the looks of it, the Gu family clearly had the confidence to open a shop in the prefectural city and sell rare things like canned food and white sugar. Not to mention that the young master of Jinxiu restaurant had gone in, even the young lady of the Nye family had come later. There was no doubt about the Nye family's status in the entire prefectural city. No one dared to challenge them. Therefore, the moment they saw the Nye family appear, more than half of them gave up. However, there was also a small group of people who were originally at odds with the Nye family. They were also people with a strong family background. They took a fancy to the sugar business and would not retreat so easily. Of course, this did not include the Zhou family. Zhou Defu no longer had any intention of causing trouble. His expression was a little ugly and defeated. There was unwillingness and fear, but he still gave a look and asked Steward Zhou, who was secretly hiding outside Gus' shop, to hurry back. Steward Zhou's legs were a little weak now, and he felt like a disaster was imminent. As expected, when he returned to the carriage, he was kicked hard by Zhou Defu. Didn't you say that Gus has no background or backing? Didn't you say that this family is just a bumpkin from the countryside? Didn't you say that if everything is handed over to you, you can definitely stop their shop from opening? Look, this is called no backing, right? Damn you. He kicked Steward Zhou again. Fortunately, I was careful and didn't let those local hooligans find trouble immediately. Otherwise, I would be the one dead now. You useless thing, why aren't you calling those people back? Yes, old master. Steward Zhou was angry but did not dare to say anything. He could only lower his head and quickly agree. Unexpectedly, just as he turned around to leave, he saw another carriage parked at the entrance of the Gu family's shop. Steward Zhou's pupils constricted when he saw the sign on the carriage. Ignoring the fact that Zhou Defu was angry, he hurriedly called out, "Master, look." "What are you looking at? What else is there to see?" "Let me tell you." As he spoke, he followed Steward Zhou's finger and looked over. In the next moment, his voice seemed to be blocked and he could not say a word. Chapter 674. Madame Dai is here. It wasn't just Zhou Defu and the others. The surrounding people who were watching the commotion and even those who were secretly thinking about it were all shocked when they recognized the symbol of the carriage. Their eyes widened. The carriage stopped at the entrance of Gus. Before Gu Yundong could look at the symbol, she was distracted by a person sitting in front of the carriage. She had seen this person before. Wasn't this the soldier who provided her with clues when she planned to earn money by drawing images after fleeing to the Shuang prefecture? Gu Yundong still remembered his words. That bandit killed my good brother who fought alongside me. I dream of him every night. I know very well how many moles there were on his face. She thought that they would never meet again, but he actually came. The soldier strode towards her. Miss Gu, we meet again. He almost didn't dare to recognize her. The last time they met, this girl was sloppy and he couldn't tell if she was a woman. Now that they met again, the difference was like heaven and earth. She was graceful and beautiful, making people's eyes light up. However, he did not stare at her. Soon, he lowered his voice and said softly, Lady Gu, Madame Dai and young Master Dai are here. Dai? Gu Yundong's pupils constricted. She exchanged glances with Xiao Qingyuan, who had heard the commotion and walked over. If she remembered correctly, the prefecture magistrate of Shuang prefecture was surnamed Dai. Seeing that she understood, the soldier nodded slightly. Gu Yundong found it strange. This person seemed to be a soldier. How did he become a subordinate of the prefecture magistrate? This thought flashed across her mind. Gu Yundong quickly walked to the front of the carriage and saw a man in his 20s getting out of the carriage. He turned around and helped an elegant woman down. Gu Yundong immediately put on a smile and welcomed her. Madame Dai, welcome, welcome. I didn't expect you to come. Please forgive me for not welcoming you from afar. Madame Dai had a gentle personality. When she saw Gu Yundong, she smiled. Boss Gu, you're too polite. I've long heard that there are many good things in Boss Gus' shop. I have to come and take a look. Her attitude was kind, so Gu Yundong smiled. Very good. She wasn't the kind of woman who particularly valued rules and looked down on businesswomen. Madame Dai, young Master Dai, please come in. Madame Dai nodded and slowly stepped into the shop. On the other hand, young Master Dai took a few more glances at Gu Yundong. Different from Madame Dai, young Master Dai had already learned a lot about Miss Gu from his father before he came. For example, the white sugar that even the imperial court valued was made by Miss Gu. He had come here today because of the instructions of the prefecture magistrate. It was to let those people who wanted to secretly scheme against Gus think twice. They should be smarter. Gus had many backers. However, to be honest, this Miss Gu was indeed impressive. Even Qin Wenjing was full of praise for her. As he was thinking, someone suddenly blocked his way. Young Master Dai looked up and saw Xiao Qingyan say expressionlessly, "This way, please." He brought the guest to the backyard. Young Master Dai saw that he was wearing ordinary clothes, but the man's eyes were very sharp. His entire body trembled and he retracted his attention. As for Madame Dai, she parted ways with her son after entering the shop. Madame Dai's status was different. Gu Yundong had personally received her, so she instructed Jing Gang to be careful and led Madame Dai upstairs. When Shuang rushed downstairs, she happened to bump into the two of them. Chapter 674. Madame Dai is here. It wasn't just Zhou Dafu and the others. The surrounding people who were watching the commotion and even those who were secretly thinking about it were all shocked when they recognized the symbol of the carriage. Their eyes widened. The carriage stopped at the entrance of Gus. Before Gu Yundong could look at the symbol, she was distracted by a person sitting in front of the carriage. She had seen this person before. Wasn't this the soldier who provided her with clues when she planned to earn money by drawing images after fleeing to the Shuang prefecture? Gu Yundong still remembered his words. That bandit killed my good brother who fought alongside me. I dream of him every night. I know very well how many moles there were on his face. She thought that they would never meet again, but he actually came. The soldier strode towards her. Miss Gu, we meet again. He almost didn't dare to recognize her. The last time they met, this girl was sloppy and he couldn't tell if she was a woman. Now that they met again, the difference was like heaven and earth. She was graceful and beautiful, making people's eyes light up. However, he did not stare at her. Soon, he lowered his voice and said softly, Lady Gu, Madame Dai and young Master Dai are here. Dai? Gu Yundong's pupils constricted. She exchanged glances with Xiao Qingyuan, who had heard the commotion and walked over. If she remembered correctly, the prefecture magistrate of Xuanhe Prefecture was surnamed Dai. Seeing that she understood, the soldier nodded slightly. Gu Yundong found it strange. This person seemed to be a soldier. How did he become a subordinate of the prefecture magistrate? This thought flashed across her mind. Gu Yundong quickly walked to the front of the carriage and saw a man in his 20s getting out of the carriage. He turned around and helped an elegant woman down. Gu Yundong immediately put on a smile and welcomed her. "Madam Dai, welcome, welcome. I didn't expect you to come. Please forgive me for not welcoming you from afar." Madam Dai had a gentle personality. When she saw Gu Yundong, she smiled. "Boss Gu, you're too polite. I've long heard that there are many good things in Boss Gus' shop. I have to come and take a look." Her attitude was kind, so Gu Yundong smiled. Very good. She wasn't the kind of woman who particularly valued rules and looked down on businesswomen. "Madam Dai, young Master Dai, please come in." Madam Dai nodded and slowly stepped into the shop. On the other hand, young Master Dai took a few more glances at Gu Yundong. Different from Madam Dai, young Master Dai had already learned a lot about Miss Gu from his father before he came. For example, the white sugar that even the imperial court valued was made by Miss Gu. He had come here today because of the instructions of the prefecture magistrate. It was to let those people who wanted to secretly scheme against Gus think twice. They should be smarter. Gus had many backers. However, to be honest, this Miss Gu was indeed impressive. Even Qin Wenjing was full of praise for her. As he was thinking, someone suddenly blocked his way. Young Master Dai looked up and saw Xiao Qingyan say expressionlessly, "This way, please." He brought the guest to the backyard. Young Master Dai saw that he was wearing ordinary clothes, but the man's eyes were very sharp. His entire body trembled and he retracted his attention. As for Madame Dai, she parted ways with her son after entering the shop. Madame Dai's status was different. Gu Yundong had personally received her, so she instructed Jing Gang to be careful and led Madame Dai upstairs. When Shuang rushed downstairs, she happened to bump into the two of them. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 676. Fortunately, she was prepared before she could finish speaking. She saw Lu Hongxiu giving her an anxious look. Gu Yundong narrowed her eyes slightly and said a few more words to Madame Dave and Shuang before letting them rest. She turned around and left. The moment she went out, Lu Hongxiu leaned closer and whispered, "Miss, the milk tea is gone." Huh. Gu Yundong was surprised. Didn't they only have 3 cups? Why is it gone? She had brought a big pot. Those 3 cups were not very big, right? Lu Hongxiu was a little ashamed. When I was in the kitchen just now, I had just scooped out 2 cups of milk tea when young Master Lu Wei came in. Since he asked, Lu Hongxiu naturally answered respectfully. Unexpectedly, Lu Wei's eyes lit up when he heard that Gu Yundong had made this drink. Then, without another word, he picked up the porcelain pot and ran away. Even Lu Hongxiu, who had always been cautious and smart, did not expect this person to have such tricks. She did not expect young Master Lu to be so thick-skinned. He didn't even say hello before snatching the item and running away. Lu Hongxiu was about to cry. How could anyone be like this? She wanted to chase after him, but Lu Wei was long gone. In addition, she was in a hurry to deliver milk tea to Madame Dai, so Lu Hongxiu could only ignore Lu Wei for the time being. Gu Yundong slapped her forehead. Lu Hongxiu knelt down nervously. "It's my fault. Miss, please punish me." Get up, get up." Gu Yundong pulled her up. "You're indeed not vigilant enough about this matter. But it's not entirely your fault. Lu Wei, this bastard." Fortunately, she made a lot of milk tea. Other than the pot in the kitchen cabinet, there was another pot in her spatial storage. Otherwise, it would be awkward if she promised Shuang but could not take it out. "You go ahead. Don't worry about the milk tea. I still have a pot. They'll send it to Miss Nya later." When Lu Hongxiu heard this, she immediately heaved a sigh of relief. Then, she took her leave in a low voice and went to the second floor to entertain Madame Dai and Shuang. Only then did Gu Yundong return to the shop. She went behind the counter. Seeing Aunt Ku and Madame Yang sitting here packing, she went over to say a few words. Then she squatted down, opened the cabinet below, and quietly placed the milk tea from the space. The milk tea was still a little hot, so she put it here to cool down. After closing the cabinet and locking it, Gu Yundong came out from behind the counter. There were still many customers, but there were also many helpers. Everyone was busy in an orderly manner. Everything seemed to be in order. Xiao Qingyun was in the backyard, and little Kiki was on the second floor. Zhenggang was also maintaining order in the shop. Gu Yundong was slightly free, so she shifted her gaze to the door. Then, it landed on the carriage of the Zhou mansion not far away. They hadn't had a chance to leave yet, so don't blame her for being rude. Gu Yundong tidied her clothes slightly and smiled. She strode towards the carriage opposite. Zhou Dafa's heart turned cold when he saw the Dai family's carriage. He knew that he could not afford to offend Gus. In fact, if he met them in the future, he would have to avoid them and treat them well. Zhou Dafu was no longer in the mood to cause trouble. He just wanted to hurry back. However, his legs were a little weak and he could not even get into the carriage. Just then Gu Yundong came over. Zhou Dafu could feel the cold sweat on his forehead. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 677. Never Come Again. Gu Yundong stood in front of Zhou Dafa's carriage with a smile. Old Master Zhou, you're here too? Zhou Dafu laughed dryly. That's right. We know each other. Miss Gus' opening ceremony is important, so I should come over to congratulate you. Old Master Zhou, you're too polite. Why don't you go in? I saw there were too many people. Boss Gu was probably too busy, so I wanted to wait a little longer. It doesn't matter if it's later. Gu Yundong looked touched. Old Master Zhou is really understanding. I didn't expect you to be so considerate of me even though we barely knew each other. Coincidentally, I'm free now. Old Master Zhou, let's go over together. But let's make it clear first. If you come, there's no need to give the gift boxes. You don't know, but so many people came today. Everyone gave me 2 big gift boxes. The storeroom in the backyard is filled. Zhou Dafu was speechless. Did he have gift boxes? He was here to cause trouble. Who would buy gift boxes? However, since he had come to congratulate others on their opening, it was indeed unreasonable not to offer any gift. He could only say as he walked, I really don't know what Boss Gu likes, so I didn't buy anything. We're all straightforward people, so I thought it would be more practical and convenient to give you money. Money? This, Gu Yundong sighed. Old Master Zhou, you're too considerate. In that case, it's difficult to refuse your kindness. I'll reluctantly accept it. But let's agree that you won't give me too much. I saw that the gift box given by the Nye family was filled with 100-year-old ginseng, jade rui, and so on. I was panicking when I accepted it. Please don't give me so much money. Just a little something is fine. Old Master Zhou was speechless. Are you sure you're not being sarcastic? You told me what the Nye family gave you and asked me not to give you too much. Damn it, how could he give less? Zhou Dafu was furious and his expression was especially ugly. However, he still had to squeeze the fat on his face to maintain a smile when he saw that they were already at the door of Gus. Especially when facing Shuang, who was waiting to register his gift, he almost vomited blood. After a while, Zhou Dafu trembled as he took out a banknote of 1,000 taels of silver and handed it to Shuang. He smiled at Gu Yundong. It's just a small token of appreciation. Don't refuse it, Boss Gu. Gu Yundong sighed. Old Master Zhou is still so generous. How kind of you. As she spoke, she turned to Shuang and said, you have to register carefully. Don't miss anyone. Wrap 2 packets of dried fruits for Old Master Zhou later. Then she said to Zhou Dafu, Old Master Zhou, take a look around. My shop has just opened. I don't know what I might have done wrong. You have to give me some suggestions. Zhou Dafu had just handed over 1,000 taels of silver, and his heart was bleeding. How could he have the mood to look at the shop and raise any suggestions? He wanted to talk with the young master of the prefecture magistrate's family and the steward of the Nye residence, but Gu Yundong had no intention of bringing him to the backyard. Zhou Defu was afraid that he would lose money if he stayed any longer, so he walked around randomly. After knowing that it was hopeless to get to know the Dai family and the Nye family, he simply bade farewell and left the Gu family's shop. Gu Yundong stood at the door with a smile. "Take care, old Master Zhou. Please come again." Again? He would never come again, not even if he died. Zhou Defu hurriedly returned to his carriage. Steward Zhou had also sent away the local hooligans and returned. The moment Zhou Defu saw him, he was furious. He clenched his fists and punched him hard in the face. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 678, Mrs. Zhou, Concubine Gu. One punch was not enough. When he saw Steward Zhou fall to the ground, he went up and gave him 2 ruthless kicks. "It's all your fault, old thing. Not only did you embarrass me, but you also wasted so much money. You dog, I'll settle this score with you when I get back." With that, he ignored Steward Zhou and got into the carriage, letting Ah Feng drive him away quickly. Steward Zhou was still lying on the ground. Many people around him saw the commotion and started pointing at him. Steward Zhou buried his head under his arm and snorted twice. However, his eyes were filled with resentment as he gritted his teeth. After a while, he got up and staggered back to the Zhou mansion. Zhou Defu had returned home earlier. After calming himself down on the way back, his mood was finally not so bad. Unexpectedly, as soon as he entered the residence, Mrs. Zhou walked over and said, "Where did Master go so early in the morning? Little June is in trouble again." "Next door." Before she could finish speaking, Zhou Defu interrupted her fiercely. "Trouble, trouble. He only knows how to cause trouble all day long. What kind of mother are you? Do you know how to teach children? I've been busy enough outside every day. It wasn't easy for me to get home. Can you save me the trouble?" He was extremely frustrated. Seeing that he had already walked out of Mrs. Zhou's courtyard, he stopped in his tracks and turned around. "If you have nothing to do, you should think about how to teach your son well. He'll go to Concubine Gus." With that, he left. Mrs. Zhou's face suddenly darkened. Seeing that he had disappeared after turning around, she was so angry that she kicked away the stool under the corridor. "Am I the only one who has a son? As a father, he doesn't care about his son and blames it on me. If old Madame hadn't doted on June like that previously, would he not listen to me now? He's good. He hides under women's skirts all day long. Concubine Gu, a widow with children, can be a treasure. He hasn't seen a woman in 8 lifetimes." She was so angry that she spoke without thinking. The nanny beside her hurriedly stroked her back and advised softly, "Madam, don't be angry. I'm afraid Master is in a bad mood today." His words were too harsh. "Madam, don't take it to heart and be angry with Master. Otherwise, won't that Gu be benefited?" Mrs. Zhou sneered. "I don't know what that Gu woman did. She's already so old, but she still has Master under his control. I reckon Master is just feeling that she's new. After a while, he'll know that Aunt Gu, a country bumpkin, is extremely vulgar and will only embarrass Master. At that time, we don't have to do anything. Master will send her away." Mrs. Zhou turned around and returned to her room. It was probably because of the nanny's persuasion that she was not as angry as before. However, she still frowned and said, "It's been nearly a year, but Master hasn't grown tired of her. Didn't I ask you to keep an eye on her? Has there been any abnormality on her side recently?" The nanny shook her head. "She's very well behaved and doesn't go out. There's no abnormality at all." Mrs. Zhou was angry. "Keep a close eye on her. Report to me if anything happens. Also, keep a close eye on the servants she orders around." "Yes." Gu Yundong did not know about the Zhou mansion. She had just received 1,000 taels of silver from Zhou Defu and was in a good mood. There were many people taking care of the shop, so she planned to go upstairs to entertain Madame Dai. Unexpectedly, as soon as she turned around, she saw a familiar figure walk in. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 678, Mrs. Zhou, Concubine Gu. One punch was not enough. When he saw Steward Zhou fall to the ground, he went up and gave him 2 ruthless kicks. It's all your fault, old thing. Not only did you embarrass me, but you also wasted so much money. You dog, I'll settle this score with you when I get back. With that, he ignored Steward Zhou and got into the carriage, letting Ah Feng drive him away quickly. Steward Zhou was still lying on the ground. Many people around him saw the commotion and started pointing at him. Steward Zhou buried his head under his arm and snorted twice. However, his eyes were filled with resentment as he gritted his teeth. After a while, he got up and staggered back to the Zhou mansion. Zhou Dafu had returned home earlier. After calming himself down on the way back, his mood was finally not so bad. Unexpectedly, as soon as he entered the residence, Mrs. Zhou walked over and said, "Where did Master go so early in the morning? Little June is in trouble again." Next door, before she could finish speaking, Zhou Dafu interrupted her fiercely. "Trouble, trouble. He only knows how to cause trouble all day long. What kind of mother are you? Do you know how to teach children? I've been busy enough outside every day. It wasn't easy for me to get home. Can you save me the trouble?" He was extremely frustrated. Seeing that he had already walked out of Mrs. Zhou's courtyard, he stopped in his tracks and turned around. "If you have nothing to do, you should think about how to teach your son well. He'll go to Concubine Gus." With that, he left. Mrs. Zhou's face suddenly darkened. Seeing that he had disappeared after turning around, she was so angry that she kicked away the stool under the corridor. Am I the only one who has a son? As a father, he doesn't care about his son and blames it on me. If old Madame hadn't doted on June like that previously, would he not listen to me now? He's good. He hides under women's skirts all day long. Concubine Gu, a widow with children, can be a treasure. He hasn't seen a woman in 8 lifetimes. She was so angry that she spoke without thinking. The nanny beside her hurriedly stroked her back and advised softly, "Madam, don't be angry. I'm afraid Master is in a bad mood today." His words were too harsh. "Madam, don't take it to heart and be angry with Master. Otherwise, won't that Gu be benefited?" Mrs. Zhou sneered. "I don't know what that Gu woman did. She's already so old, but she still has Master under his control. I reckon Master is just feeling that she's new. After a while, he'll know that Aunt Gu, a country bumpkin, is extremely vulgar and will only embarrass Master. At that time, we don't have to do anything. Master will send her away." Mrs. Zhou turned around and returned to her room. It was probably because of the nanny's persuasion that she was not as angry as before. However, she still frowned and said, "It's been nearly a year, but Master hasn't grown tired of her. Didn't I ask you to keep an eye on her? Has there been any abnormality on her side recently?" The nanny shook her head. "She's very well behaved and doesn't go out. There's no abnormality at all." Mrs. Zhou was angry. "Keep a close eye on her. Report to me if anything happens. Also, keep a close eye on the servants she orders around." Yes. Gu Yundong did not know about the Zhou mansion. She had just received 1,000 taels of silver from Zhou Dafu and was in a good mood. There were many people taking care of the shop, so she planned to go upstairs to entertain Madame Dai. Unexpectedly, as soon as she turned around, she saw a familiar figure walk in. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 680. Will he take revenge? Auntie, you've been here for a long time. If you don't plan to buy anything, can you make way for the customers behind you? Gu Yundong spoke with a smile, but Madame Sun's face turned red. She looked at Gu Yundong and then at Su Changshun. She stammered, This shop belongs to you? Could it be yours? Madame Sun was speechless for a long time. She wanted to ask Gu Yundong why she had to find a former thief to be her assistant in such a big shop. However, she could not ask. She could even feel the people around her looking at her, as if they were pointing and saying something. She vaguely heard someone say, "Don't come in if you can't afford it." It's been a long time, but they didn't buy anything. Don't tell me they want to take advantage of the chaos to get something. That's right. Otherwise, why would the boss come over to warn them? Madame Sun had always treated Su Changshun as a thief. She mocked and ridiculed him every day. Who knew that one day she would be criticized as a dirty person? She was so angry that she wanted to retort, but the two neighbors beside her had already turned red. They did not want to complicate matters at all and pulled her away. Gu Yundong sneered and said to Su Changshun, "Ignore them. Continue working." Su Changshun nodded gratefully. "Yes, boss." On the other side, Madame Sun only broke free after being pulled out of the shop for a long time. Without those strange gazes, her temper rose again. "What are you doing? What's there to escape? We didn't steal anything. Why should we be slandered by them?" The other two looked at each other and said, "It's obvious that the boss doesn't welcome us. Why are we still staying there? Making a fool of ourselves?" Madame Sun widened her eyes. "What do you mean by not welcoming us? She runs a shop and does business. We're guests when we go in. We're going to spend money. She has to treat us respectfully. Even if she doesn't welcome us, can she chase us away? Why not? Do you think she cares about our one tael of silver? Didn't you hear that when those people were paying the bill just now, it was dozens of taels of silver? You said it yourself. The customers coming and going in this shop are either rich or noble. Even the prefecture magistrate's wife is here. What are we?" Madame Sun was a little indignant at first, but when she heard the words, "prefecture magistrate's wife," she suddenly reacted and her face turned pale. She didn't dare to say anything else. If she had made a scene in the shop just now, she would have been the one to suffer. Madame Sun started to feel uneasy and walked home in a daze. On the other hand, the other two people said softly, "I didn't expect the boss to really not mind the kid from the Su family's bad reputation and arrange for him to work in such a big shop. Do you think Su Changshun will become rich in the future? The customers of this shop will all be nobles in the future. The people he knows in the future will be amazing. We didn't seem to treat the Su family well in the past." As the two of them spoke, they could not help but take another look at Madame Sunday. The one who treated the Su family the worst was Madame Sun, who was the Su family's neighbor. In the past, she had sabotaged Su Changshun's job several times and badmouthed the Su family everywhere. In the future, if the Su family wanted to take revenge, the Sun family would be the first to suffer. When the two of them thought of this, they subconsciously kept a distance from Madame Sunday. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 681. The shop's second floor. Gu Yundong saw that all the troublemakers had left, so she went to the second floor in a relaxed manner. On the second floor, Shuang was talking to Madame Dai. Little Yunka was writing calligraphy. Madame Dai liked her very much and would guide her from time to time. Gu Yundong raised her eyebrows. It was very rare to receive guidance from the prefecture magistrate's wife. Her footsteps could not help but lighten. Shuang was the first to see her and quickly waved her hand. "Are you done? What were you talking about?" Gu Yundong walked to the chair opposite them and sat down. Little Yunka looked up and saw that it was her elder sister. She immediately smiled and continued to write. However, Shuang said excitedly, "Auntie and I were talking about your house." Sister Yundong, can I come here often in the future? I think the decorations here are especially exquisite, and this chair is comfortable and beautiful. There are books here, and there's such delicious milk tea. I'll call my good friends over. We can also play chess and write. It's much better than staying at home. Don't worry, we want eat and drink for free. Gu Yundong smiled. The second floor was indeed not bad. When she was renovating, she saw that the spatial storage was quite big, so Zhenggang suggested that they also put goods on the second floor. Gu Yundong thought about it and refused. The floor below was already big enough. Her goods were displayed on the first floor. If the guests wanted more, they could take the goods from the storeroom in the backyard. The second floor could be used to entertain guests. Some people with extraordinary statuses could be invited to the second floor for a meeting if they wanted to buy a lot of things. Therefore, the second floor was equivalent to an office. There was also a small cubicle at the back with a bed inside that could be used to rest. There were a few more tables and chairs today for the ladies because the shop had just opened. However, looking at it like this, it was indeed like a modern cafe. The environment was very quiet and comfortable. Wasn't the meaning in Shuang's words that she was bringing her little sisters to the cafe for afternoon tea? However, Yundong did not intend to treat this place as a cafe. After all, it was inconvenient. If you want to bring your friends over, you'll naturally welcome them. However, the shop is downstairs. Not only is it noisy, but what if someone doesn't know etiquette and comes up to offend you? The stairs to the second floor were in the shop. If the shop assistant was too busy and did not notice, it was possible for anyone to run up. Moreover, if the second floor became a cafe, she would not have an office. Most importantly, it was not worth it. It was not profitable and would cost a lot of time. Madame Dai, who was at the side, also considered this. Shuang, don't cause trouble. Which of your friends isn't a young lady from a rich family? They have a lot of people serving them when they go out. Yundong's shop isn't even big enough for them to stand in. When the time comes, no one will dare to enter the shop downstairs and it will affect her business. Shuang thought about it and agreed. She was a little dejected and sighed. But it's too boring to stay at home all day. Yundong thought for a moment and smiled. Perhaps you can open a tea house like this yourself? Shuang was stunned. Open it herself? Even Madame Daoist's eyes lit up. She really liked the decorations here. It was comfortable and enjoyable. The two of them looked at Yundong in unison. The latter blinked. Why were they looking at her like that? Shuang grabbed Yundong's hands and said excitedly, Sister Yundong, you're right. We can open it ourselves, but if you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible.